Chapter 1649, A Beastie Without an Owner is a Blade of Grass, 2, mm. I'm going to arrange for them to undergo demonic training in the illusionary sky. Leng Ruoxue said with a smile. Miss. I also want to go in. Feng De said hurriedly. Every day, he watched Qing Wu and the others fight to their heart's content while he could only watch from the side. His hands were really itchy. Good. All of you, go in. Leng Ruoxue nodded. Sister. Master. At this moment, several cheerful voices rang in Leng Ruoxue's ears. Following that, dozens of small, exquisite, and adorable mimicry beasts hung on her body. It had been a long time since the little beasts had seen her. They all fought to be the first to burrow into her arms. Those little beasts that did not manage to occupy an advantageous position looked at her pitifully with faces full of anticipation. Their eyes were still rippling with tears, causing Leng Ruoxue's heart to ache. May, baby. I missed you guys so much. Leng Ruoxue happily touched and hugged this and that. She simply couldn't bear to part with her adorable little fellows. Her beastie was really too adorable. Lovely master, we missed you too. The baby said with tears in its eyes. Originally, they could have advanced a long time ago, but no one was in a hurry to come out of seclusion. Instead, they were still working hard to absorb the spiritual qi in the space because they all wanted to improve their strength as soon as possible. No one wanted to drag their master down. Moreover, according to its conservative estimate, the spiritual qi absorbed by them during this seclusion should not be a problem for them to advance 2 levels. Master. The Mei also cried out with tears in her eyes. N. Leng Ruoxue hugged the Mei tightly. In her heart, the Mei had always been the most considerate and sensible beastie. Although its strength was not the highest among all the beastie, the mice prestige among them was very high. This was something that she was happy to see. Let's go out and advance first. Leng Ruoxue spoke again after being close to the beasts for a while. Yes, yes. The beasts nodded in unison. Then, Leng Ruoxue brought them along with the demon to the garden in the main residence. As soon as they arrived at the garden of the main residence, the laws of heaven and earth for advancement descended. Leng Ruoxue took a closer look and saw that the Mei had advanced first. The other beasts were not to be outdone either. They each found their own place and waited for their advancement. When Leng Ruoxue saw this, she quickly found a place to sit down cross-legged and activated all the divine power in her body, officially beginning her advancement. Not long after, dazzling laws of the world descended one after another. There were so many that it was impossible to tell who they belonged to, and this state lasted for a long time. Before the first wave of laws of heaven and earth disappeared, another wave of laws of heaven and earth descended. Leng Ruoxue and the beasts shared the benefits of advancing to the next realm, and they enjoyed the massive amount of energy that was bestowed upon them by their advancement. Originally, the spiritual energy within Leng Ruoxue's body was only enough for her to advance to the advanced level deity realm. However, with the spiritual energy from the spiritual beasts, Leng Ruoxue had actually advanced to the deity realm. This result made her extremely happy. The beastman's gains were also not small. Feng Zhan and Bai Su had each advanced 3 ranks. Bai Su had advanced to become a Class 9 sacred beast, and his strength was equivalent to a divine emperor. Feng Zhan had advanced to Class 8, and Mei had advanced 4 ranks, becoming a Class 8 sacred beast. As for the old phoenixes who had been working hard at cultivating, they had all become Class 8 sacred beasts. Although they were still some distance away from their peak strength, they were already very satisfied to be able to recover to this level in such a short time. Thanks on the other hand, Baby and the other magical beasts gave Leng Ruoxue the biggest surprise. This was because they had actually advanced 5 ranks in a row, all of them becoming Class 7 sacred beasts. Although their strength was not the highest among the magical beasts, the fact that they had made such a huge improvement this time around made Leng Ruoxue the happiest. After the incident, Baby and the other beasts all proudly raised their little tails. Even their small steps were full of vigor. Leng Ruoxua laughed happily when she saw their smug expressions. Her own beasts were cute no matter how she looked at them. My lovely master. We won't drag you down, Baby said with satisfaction. This time, they could finally hold their heads high. All along, their strength had been the lowest among the beasts. Although they still looked happy on the surface, in reality, they were not feeling good either. Otherwise, they would not have made up their minds to cultivate. Now, it seemed that their decision was wise. Although their strength was still at the bottom among the beasts, they could at least help their master. Silly girl, you guys have never dragged me down, Leng Ruoxua said with a smile. Hee hee. Baby and the other beasts laughed foolishly. With these words from their lovely master, their boring cultivation was worth it. Just look at how you're doing. If it wasn't for Master's spiritual energy, which is beyond our imagination, would you have advanced 5 levels in a row? Stop dreaming. Feng Zhan couldn't bear to see his precious and the other beasties' smugness and poured a bucket of cold water on them without giving them face. It was very jealous. Originally, Baby and the other beasts were much weaker than it, but this time, they were only 1 rank lower than it. How could its proud heart accept this? However, what made it even angrier was that Bai Su, that stupid cat, had actually advanced to become a 9th level sacred beast. This was something that it could not accept. As a result, after the advancement, it became depressed and anxious. You damn bird, you're clearly envious, jealous, and hateful, Baby said through gritted teeth. It was angry, and the consequences were very serious. If it didn't teach this damn bird a lesson today, this bird would probably not know why the flowers were so red. After giving the other beasties a look, the beasties with Baby in the lead immediately pounced on the unhappy Feng Zhan. In an instant, the garden was in chaos. Feng Zhan, who was fighting alone, was being chased around by the treasure and the other beasts. He was still shouting, Master! Help me! However, their actions made Leng Ruoxua and the other beasts who had not joined the battle laugh happily. Shwa. With them around, it's really lively. The demon hugged Leng Ruoxua in his arms and smiled. It had been a long time since the house was so lively. Leng Ruoxua smiled and nodded. Such days were not bad. After a long time. After Baby and the other beasts had enough fun with Feng Zhan, they ran into Leng Ruoxua's arms to rest. This angered the demon so much that he glared at them. However, Baby and the other beasts were not afraid of him at all because someone would support them. These hateful little things. The demon cursed in his heart, but he said, Shwa, your beastie is getting more and more adorable. Of course, Leng Ruoxua nodded her head in agreement. However, the demon's words put the beasties on guard. Shwa. Aren't they supposed to enter the illusory sky? The demon reminded. With a thought, Leng Ruoxua moved Huan Tian, Feng De, and the rest out of the bracelet. Chapter 1650, A Beastie Without an Owner is a Blade of Grass. 3, all of you can go in. Leng Ruoxua laughed as she spoke. After she finished speaking, the illusion heaven released a strong light and sucked Feng De, the rest, and all the beasts into it. Seeing that all the light bulbs had disappeared, the evil demon felt smug. However, his smugness did not last long as he heard Leng Ruoxua say, Evildoer, let's go in and have some fun. Ah. Shwa. We've finally lost the third wheel, do we still have to go in? The demon was a little unwilling. Silly, the fantasy sky is so big. It's not easy to meet them. Leng Ruoxua laughed as she coaxed. All right then. The demon nodded and held Leng Ruoxua's hand, afraid that she would leave him behind. The fantasy sky was a divine tool that Leng Ruoxua had painstakingly refined. Although it was only a high-grade divine tool now, as its master's abilities increased, the fantasy sky could also advance. As the master of the fantasy sky, Leng Ruoxua naturally did not need to be like Feng De, who could only monitor the situation inside the fantasy sky from the outside. In reality, she only needed to use her heart to sense and she would know what the people inside were doing. After entering the fantasy sky, Len Ruoxue first brought the evildoer around to take a look. In the illusion heaven, the second elder and the others were still fighting. The Dark Tiger King and Bai Xian were also in a confrontation. However, when Bai Xian's body was enveloped by the laws of the world that had advanced, the Dark Tiger King's eyes widened in disbelief. However, what surprised it even more was that after the laws of the world had disappeared, Bai Xian had actually advanced to become a 9th-level sacred beast. This had almost made its jaw drop. Fuck! What kind of person was this? It was wrong. What kind of beast is it? How did he suddenly advance? Moreover, his strength was suddenly higher than its own. How could it continue to fight? The Dark Tiger King was depressed. However, Bai Xian was equally baffled, his face full of confusion. When Len Ruoxue and the demon appeared, they saw that the Dark Tiger King's face was filled with confusion while Bai Xian's face was filled with confusion. The two beastie were staring at each other. Ha ha ha. Len Ruoxue couldn't help but laugh out loud when she saw their cute and comical appearance. Master! At this moment, Bai Xian finally returned to his senses. When he saw Len Ruoxue's cultivation, he immediately understood. No wonder he had advanced in rank for no reason. It turned out that the young miss had come out of seclusion. However, this advancement had given it too much of a shock. It had actually become a 9th-level sacred beast. This was far beyond its expectations. If it wasn't for its strong heart, it wouldn't have been able to withstand this stimulation. Little girl, you've become a deity. The Dark Tiger King also reacted, but its eyes were filled with resentment. Woo! This was really too much. It had cultivated for so long, but it had not been able to advance to become a 9th-level sacred beast. However, the damn tiger in front of it had actually easily become the 9th-level sacred beast it had dreamed of. Could this be the difference between having a master and not having one? Could it be that a beastie without an owner was a blade of grass? The Dark Tiger King was extremely aggrieved. It was extremely jealous of Bai Xian's free gains. If Bai Xian's strength wasn't higher than its own, it would definitely bite the white tiger a few times without any hesitation. Fuck. They were really bullying beasts. The more it thought about it, the angrier it got. In the end, its resentful eyes actually welled up with tears. Immediately after, the Dark Tiger King let out an "wow." It cried out loud, and as it cried, it used its big claws to hit the ground, crying like a pear blossom in the rain, very pitiful. The Dark Tiger King's unbothered appearance as it cried bitterly made the two humans and one beast present at the scene have black lines all over their foreheads. What was this situation? Why did she suddenly start crying? The two humans and one beast were all confused. Tiger King. What the hell are you doing? Len Ruoxue asked helplessly, her hands silently wiping away the cold sweat on her forehead. The Dark Tiger King raised its huge head and looked at Len Ruoxue with tears in its eyes. It was so choked up that it could not complete its sentence. What's wrong with you? Len Ruoxue asked carefully. The Dark Tiger King's way of thinking was strange to put it nicely, but to put it bluntly, it was like a spirit. Thus, she really could not guess what was wrong with it. I'm sad. The Dark Tiger King continued to sob. Are you missing your wife and children? Len Ruoxue guessed. No. The Dark Tiger King was still sobbing. Ah. Then why are you crying? Len Ruoxue didn't understand. In her eyes, the Dark Tiger King only cared about its wife and child. Since it wasn't crying for them, then what was it crying for? Did Bai Xian bully it? That shouldn't be the case. Bai Xian was not that kind of beast. Thanks. Len Ruoxue's mind started to run wild. I want to advance, I want to become a 9th-level sacred beast. The Shadow Tiger King cried out. After it finished speaking, it fell to the ground and started crying again, causing Len Ruoxue and the other two to be dumbfounded. As long as you work hard in your cultivation, you'll be able to reach the 9th level of the sacred beast realm sooner or later. Leng Ruoxue smiled as she consoled him. I know. I've always been working hard on my cultivation, but I don't understand why some beasts can be harvested without any work. Could it be that a beast without a master is a blade of grass? The Dark Tiger King roared in jealousy. At the same time, it glared at Bai Xian with wide eyes. Ugh! Bai Xian felt wronged after finding out the reason behind the Dark Tiger King's cries. This can't be blamed on it, right? Who asked it to have a genius master? It couldn't stop its master from advancing, could it? Moreover, since its master had advanced, wasn't it only natural that the beastie that was contracted to the master would benefit? Although it had gained a lot of benefits this time, which made it very overjoyed, this was really not something it could decide. Therefore, it felt that the black tiger's jealousy was inexplicable. However, as a fellow tiger, it would not show off in front of the Dark Tiger King just because it had advanced to become a 9th-level sacred beast. It was just that it did not know if the black tiger would appreciate it. Reality had proven that the Dark Tiger King hated the White Tiger clan. Even though Bai Xian had already hidden behind Leng Ruoxue and tried his best to reduce his presence, the Dark Tiger King was still dissatisfied and wanted to find fault with them. Why are you hiding? Now that you're stronger than me, you're still hiding. The Dark Tiger King angrily roared. The relationship between the Dark Tiger tribe and the White Tiger clan was not shallow. They all had the same ancestor. However, because they had undergone some kind of mutation, some of the self-proclaimed orthodox members of the Tiger clan looked down on them and even chased them out of the Tiger clan's territory. This had always been a pain in the hearts of the Dark Tiger tribe. As a result, whenever it saw a white tiger, it wanted to cause trouble, especially when this hateful white tiger had advanced to Class 9 Saint God beast in front of it. The fire of anger in its heart was naturally even stronger. However, although the Dark Tiger King was very angry with Bai Xian did not want to become enemies with this black tiger. After all, they were all tigers. Even if they could not love each other, they should not kill each other. As such, it hid behind Leng Ruoxue with a peace of mind. No matter how much the Dark Tiger King clamored, it was as steady as Mount Tai and ignored it. You cowardly tiger, come out. Seeing that Bai Xian wasn't moving, the Dark Tiger King's anger grew. Tiger King, calm down. Leng Ruoxue looked at the agitated Dark Tiger King and reached out to pat its head, consoling it. Little girl, this is my grudge with the White Tiger clan. Don't interfere. The Dark Tiger King ignored Leng Ruoxue's hand that was placed on its head and roared. Hee hee. However, it is my beastie. Leng Ruoxue chuckled as she reminded him. It doesn't matter. I just want to fight it, I won't hurt it. The Dark Tiger King promised. We've already fought many times. Bai Xian muttered softly. So what? Didn't you advance now? Let's fight again, let me see your 9th level sacred beast strength. The Dark Tiger King was furious. I really don't want to continue fighting with you. However, if you also want to advance to the 9th class, I can give you a good idea. Bai Xian said in understanding, sighing in his heart. It was all because of his advancement. It really didn't want to be entangled with this stubborn tiger. What idea? The Dark Tiger King was stunned and asked in a silly manner. It really wanted to advance to the 9th level of the sacred beast realm. Moreover, it believed that no other beast would not want to do so. Just find a master. My master is not bad. Bai Xian suggested. After hearing Bai Xian's words, the Dark Tiger King began to think seriously. Leng Ruoxue glared at Bai Xian, not knowing whether to laugh or cry. This fellow had actually betrayed her in order to avoid being pestered by the Dark Tiger King. The Dark Tiger King pondered for a long time, occasionally raising its head to look at Leng Ruoxue. It had spent quite some time with Leng Ruoxue, and Leng Ruoxue had done its wife and child a favor. If she recognized her as its master, it wouldn't reject her. However, it had always treated Leng Ruoxue as a junior and always called her a little girl. Now that it suddenly wanted to recognize her as its master, it felt a little weird. However, it was also very clear that it would be very difficult to find another human as pleasing to its eyes as Leng Ruoxue. Furthermore, it felt that it had gotten along quite well with Leng Ruoxue's subordinates. So, even though it was still a little conflicted about the change in its relationship with Leng Ruoxue, it was still happy to do so. After thinking it through, the Dark Tiger King said directly, "Little girl, I've decided to acknowledge you as my master. You can't refuse. Otherwise, I'll be angry." Its words were as domineering as ever, just like its personality, proud and full of confidence. However, there was a trace of nervousness in its bright eyes, which revealed its uneasiness at the moment. Chapter 1651, The Loyal Second Elder, 1, Tiger King. We're friends. Are you really going to recognize me as your master? Leng Ruoxue looked at the Dark Tiger King and asked in a serious tone. I want to advance. A beastie without a master is so pitiful. The Dark Tiger King said with an aggrieved expression. The tears in its eyes were about to burst again. When Leng Ruoxue heard the Darkness Tiger King's words, she helplessly wiped the cold sweat off her forehead. She thought to herself, this tiger is really honest. However, she had always had a good impression of this black tiger and liked its two babies. Although the Darkness Tiger King's master recognition had a certain purpose, it wasn't something that she couldn't accept. However, she also understood the Darkness Tiger King's crazy personality. She was afraid that it was just a temporary impulse. Tiger King. Once you recognize a master, you will lose your freedom. Leng Ruoxue reminded. I want to advance, the Dark Tiger King said stubbornly. All right then. You can recognize your own master. Seeing that it had already made up its mind, Leng Ruoxue didn't decline. The Shadow Tiger King nodded its large head. Then, as if it was afraid that Leng Ruoxue would go back on her words, it quickly signed a soul contract with her. Following the rules of the contract, the two of them officially became master beasts. Little girl, now I'm also your beastie. You have to work hard in your cultivation and strive to advance in rank as soon as possible. After the contract was completed, the Dark Tiger King urged him anxiously. Ugh! When Leng Ruoxue heard the Dark Tiger King's warning, she felt a little depressed. She really didn't know if the Dark Tiger King had found a cute and obedient beastie for her, or had she found a supervisor for her. However, no matter how he looked at it, the Shadow Tiger King did not seem to be cute at all. Sigh. Forget it. She admitted it. Who asked her to be soft-hearted? Little girl. Seeing that Leng Ruoxue was ignoring him, the Shadow Tiger King could not help but call out again. I'll work hard on my cultivation. Leng Ruoxue's forehead was covered in cold sweat. Then you should quickly go into seclusion. I'll train those old men well for you. The Dark Tiger King quickly said. Leng Ruoxue didn't expect the Dark Tiger King to be in such a hurry. She had just broken through, but it was urging her to go into closed-door cultivation immediately. Sigh. What the hell is this? After exchanging glances with the demon, Leng Ruoxue said helplessly, Demon, let's go. The demon held back his laughter and nodded. However, just as the two of them were about to leave, they were stopped by the Dark Tiger King. Little girl. Wait a minute. The Dark Tiger King said with a frown. What's the matter? Leng Ruoxue's face was filled with question marks. Little girl, you can go and cultivate in seclusion. This man has to stay. Her beauty was misleading. It will affect your cultivation speed. The Dark Tiger King reminded him earnestly. Thanks, the Dark Tiger King's words left Leng Ruoxue flabbergasted and at a loss for words. Woo! She didn't hear wrongly, right? Why did he have to care about this tiger? He had just become her beastie, and now he wanted to break up the couple. At this moment, Bai Xian, who had been hiding behind Leng Ruoxue, felt a chill run down his spine. Cold sweat had already started to drip down his body, and he couldn't help but feel disgusted in his heart. Was this black tiger really looking for death? They didn't dare to provoke that demonic man. Moreover, after being Miss Beast for so long, it knew very well how much that demonic man liked to stick to Miss. Now, this black tiger actually despised that demonic man for delaying Miss cultivation. AI. It could already see the Dark Tiger King's miserable end. Repeat what you just said. The demon laughed. The expression on his face was very calm, making it impossible to tell whether he was happy or angry. However, the calmer he was, the more uneasy Leng Ruoxue felt. I said that beauty is misleading. Even if you like the little girl, you can't delay her cultivation. The Dark Tiger King's reaction was a little slow. However, it could not help but think, isn't it clear enough? This human actually didn't understand. It seemed like he was really a pretty boy who only had good looks. It felt some disdain in its heart. How did I delay her cultivation? The evildoer asked shamelessly. Leng Ruoxue and Bai Xian, who were standing beside him, were so nervous that they did not even dare to breathe. They were afraid that the Tiger King would say something shocking that would enrage the evildoer and cause him to be unable to deal with it. With you around, how could this little girl have the mood to cultivate? That face of yours is a source of trouble. No. This little girl can't be charmed by you to the point that she doesn't want to improve. Her main task now is to cultivate hard. As for men and other things, they have to be ranked at the back. How about this? I've decided when the little girl advances to Reverend God level, and they'll let you two meet again. As for now, don't come and disturb my family's little girl. The more the Dark Tiger King spoke, the more it felt that its words made sense. It had completely ignored the demon's increasingly dark expression and the cold aura that was exuding from his body. As for Leng Ruoxue and Bai Xian, they quietly left the dangerous zone. Reality proved that Leng Ruoxue and Bai Xian's foresight was wise. As soon as the Dark Tiger King's voice fell, the evildoer rushed to the front of the Dark Tiger King and grabbed the thick fur on its neck. He clenched his fist and ruthlessly swung it at its big head. Then, a bang was heard. Bang! 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 The sound of fists hitting flesh reverberated through the clouds, and the demon's fists rained down like raindrops. The Dark Tiger King, who wasn't mentally prepared, was stunned, and it couldn't come back to its senses for a long time. After a long time. By the time the Dark Tiger King reacted, Leng Ruoxue and the demon had already left. Only Bai Xian was looking at it from the side with a hint of sympathy. At this moment, the Dark Tiger King was covered in injuries. The blood on its body had already dyed half of its fur red and was dripping onto the ground along its fur. Its eyes were still a little dazed, and it seemed as if it had not fully regained consciousness. I was beaten up. The Dark Tiger King said in disbelief after a long while. Yup. You've been beaten up. Bai Xian nodded and couldn't help but add in his heart, he was beaten up so badly. How is this possible? Why didn't I retaliate? The Dark Tiger King was bewildered. Even if its reaction was slow, it was impossible for it to not retaliate after being hit, right? This was definitely not something it would do. It was extremely depressed. I don't know. Bai Xian lowered his head. He didn't want to express any opinion on the Dark Tiger King's beating. In fact, they were very unwilling to provoke that evildoer. Although he wouldn't do anything to them for the sake of the young miss, they were still very afraid that he would attack them from behind due to their intuition for danger. It was impossible to guard against that. Then why did he beat me up? I didn't offend him, did I? The Dark Tiger King said in an aggrieved manner. It didn't realize that it was its words that had angered the demon. Therefore, it felt extremely unbalanced to be beaten up for no reason. However, what it couldn't accept even more was that its strength was on par with that man's. Why would it stupidly allow the other party to beat it up? It could not understand. The Dark Tiger King's words left Bai Xian speechless. It had thought that this tiger was very smart. Only now did it realize that this Shadow Tiger King was not just an ordinary person. Who wouldn't be angry when they heard that the Tiger King had separated the husband and wife who were as close as glue and said that they could only meet after they had cultivated to the reverent god level? More importantly, with its understanding of the young miss and that devilish man, how could they be away from each other for too long? So, wasn't the Dark Tiger King asking for a beating by saying such words? It only had 2 words for the Tiger King now, and that was that it deserved it. Chapter 1652, The Loyal Second Elder, 2, I'm asking you a question. Why are you ignoring me? Seeing Bai Xian remain silent for a long time, the Darkness Tiger King couldn't help but become anxious. I don't have anything to say. Bai Xian said honestly. Why would I have nothing to say? You just need to tell me why he beat me up. Isn't that easy? The Dark Tiger King said, unwilling to let this go. You can ask whoever beat you up. I can't help you. Bai Xian said helplessly as he wiped the cold sweat from his forehead. He had originally thought that the Umbra Tiger King was very smart. Only today did he realize that it was an idiot. It said the wrong thing and offended someone, but it still didn't know it and kept asking it why. Sigh. It really couldn't be bothered to argue with the Dark Tiger King anymore. It knew very well that if it really told the Dark Tiger King the reason, this tiger might continue to ask it for the truth. It was very busy and didn't have the time to answer this tiger's 100000 ys. At the thought of this, Bai Xian chose to teleport. AI. Don't you run. Seeing that Bai Xian had disappeared, the Dark Tiger King anxiously stomped its paws. However, after just 2 stomps, it felt a piercing pain coming from its body. That demonic man was really heavy-handed. Humph. It's best not to let it catch that evildoer. Otherwise, it'll definitely make him suffer. It thought to itself with hatred. Then, it took out a healing pill and put it in its mouth. After eating the pill, its external injuries were cured, but it still felt a sharp pain. Fuck. What was going on? This was too strange. The Shadow Tiger King cursed in its heart before it limped and trembled as it left its spot. After Leng Ruoxue and the demon left, they went to a few other places to look around. However, the demon kept a straight face the entire time. Leng Ruoxue could not help but laugh in her heart when she saw this. It seemed like the demon was really angry. Although she also felt that the Dark Tiger King was a bit naggy, she did not feel too angry. Instead, she felt that it was funny. Who asked her to know the Dark Tiger King's weakness? Demon, don't be angry. No one will take the Tiger King's words seriously. Leng Ruoxue smiled as she consoled him. That damn tiger, I won't let it go. I've only taught it a small lesson today, but it'll suffer in the future. The demon gritted his teeth. The poor Tiger King had no idea that his suggestion today had brought him a devil-like opponent. In the days to come, he would be in deep waters and burning fires. Hee hee. Leng Ruoxue chuckled as she prayed for the Dark Tiger King in her heart. Poor fellow, I wish you good luck. Schwer. You're not allowed to help it. The demon looked at Leng Ruoxue and warned. Don't worry. I'm on your side. Leng Ruoxue promised. That's good. Schwer, let's go over there and sit for a while. The demon pointed at a huge rock and said in satisfaction. Thanks. Leng Ruoxue nodded and pulled the evildoer to sit down with her. However, just as they sat down, they saw a person running towards them in a panic. And that person was none other than the Second Elder, who was in an extremely sorry state and covered in injuries. The Second Elder ran to the front. When he saw Leng Ruoxue and the evildoer, the anger in his heart burned even more and he roared, Wretched girl, what are you doing here? I can't be here. I saw that this place is quite quiet and the environment is not bad, so I came here with my man for a walk. Leng Ruoxue said with a smile. Strolling? Damn girl, you really don't know how high the sky is. Do you know how dangerous this place is? You actually dared to come here for a stroll. I think you really don't want your lives. The second elder roared in anger. This place is very dangerous. Len Ruoshua deliberately showed an expression of disbelief. Of course it's dangerous. Fuck, I really don't know what kind of place this is. It's actually filled with godly venerable rank beasts. The second elder said unhappily. As long as he thought of this, he had no way to vent the gloominess in his heart. Moreover, he never knew that godly venerable rank beasties were so common that they could be found everywhere. They didn't even have the same kind. It was really infuriating. How could that be possible? Len Ruoshua blinked her beautiful eyes, obviously not believing second elder's words. However, she was laughing in her heart. After the second elder and the others entered the illusionary sky, they would only think that this was a strange place and would not remember that they were undergoing devil training. This was also the special thing about the illusionary sky. This way, it also increased the sense of realism. Do you think I would lie to you? Wretched girl, if you don't want to die, then quickly leave. The second elder roared. Why don't you leave? Len Ruoshua was very surprised. This old man actually told her to leave quickly. This really touched her. If I could leave, I would have run away long ago. You guys should leave this place quickly. The second elder urged anxiously. He could already feel the two hierarch rank beasts getting closer and closer. These two beasts were coming for him. Therefore, he was very loyal and did not want to implicate Len Ruoshua. Although he did not like Len Ruoshua very much, he could not abandon her and that evildoer at this time. Otherwise, not only would the master not let him off, he would also blame himself for this. As the second elder of the Ning family, although he had been dismissed, he was still a member of the family. However, he still had this awareness. If we leave just because you tell us to, how embarrassing would that be? Len Ruoshua said with slight displeasure. Her words also angered second elder to death. Fuck. He finally knew what it meant to be unkind. These two beasts had started because of him. Initially, he did not want to implicate Len Ruoshua and the demon, which was why he urged them to leave quickly. However, who knew that they would not appreciate his kindness? This made him feel a deep sense of powerlessness. However, just as the second elder was remorseful, the two beasts that had been chasing him relentlessly had arrived in front of them. One of the two beasts was a giant golden monkey with a golden body, while the other was a black and white bear-type beast that looked like a panda. Both of them were at reverent god level. When second elder saw them, his expression immediately turned serious while the two beastie beasts looked at second elder with a smile on their faces. They even winked at him from time to time. However, second elder was a little nervous at the moment and was not in the mood to receive their flirtatious looks. Instead, he yelled at Len Ruoshua and the demon, "You guys leave this place quickly, I'll be responsible for holding these two beasts back." He was very loyal and wanted to buy some time for Len Ruoshua and the demon. After all, from his perspective, Len Ruoshua and the demon were too weak. If they stayed here, not only would they not be of any help, they would only drag him down. They might even become the two beasts' dinner. No matter which option they chose, it was not something he wanted to see. More importantly, the two beasts had come after him. Hence, he could not let Len Ruoshua and the demon suffer this undeserved calamity. Chapter 1653, The Loyal Second Elder, 3, Second Elder, are you sure you can hold them back? Len Ruoshua asked with a look of disbelief. Damn girl, it's better than all of us dying here. The second elder was furious. At this time, this wretched girl still wanted to go against him. I don't want to die here, Len Ruoshua nodded. Then why don't you all leave quickly? The second elder shouted anxiously. Old man, our target is you. We won't kill innocent people. At this moment, the giant golden monkey spoke. However, his words made the second elder dumbfounded. Ugh! Did that monkey mean that he was only looking for him? The second elder thought to himself as he came back to his senses. However, this fact also made him quite depressed. He really didn't know how he had caught the eyes of these two detestable beasts, or was it that the power of a beauty was incomparably powerful? Compared to him, whether it was Leng Ruoxue or that demon, they were definitely rare beauties in this world. However, these beasts couldn't treat him differently just because of this, right? How could he endure this? The second elder, who had been very loyal to his friends, felt a little disgruntled at this moment. If those beasts were treated equally, then he would have sacrificed his life for the sake of Leng Ruoxue and the evildoer's escape. But what was going on now? If he had a choice, he would rather sacrifice his life than die in grievance because of his inferior strength. Sob. Could his life not be so twisted? When he thought about this, he looked at Leng Ruoxue and the demon with some hidden bitterness. However, they did not even look at him in the eye. Instantly, the anger in his heart was ignited again. What do you want? The second elder's heart was in a state of balance as he shouted out in anger. Isn't it obvious? You're our prey. The giant golden monkey laughed evilly. It and the panda acted as if they didn't see Leng Ruoxue and the demon. All of their gazes were placed on the second elder. Prey. The second elder was exasperated. Ever since he had advanced to reverent god level, how long had it been since he had felt so aggrieved? In the Ning family, other than the position of the family head and the great elder, he could also be considered a big shot in the Ning family and the divine realm. However, he was now forced to a dead end by two beasts. Moreover, he originally wanted to do something good and die a worthy death, but these two evil-minded beasts refused to give him a chance. This made him so depressed that he was about to vomit blood. Fuck. How could there be such an infuriating beastie? Hee hee. Don't be afraid, well be gentle to you. At this time, the panda also spoke. Its voice was very magnetic and very comfortable to the ear. However, the second elder was so angry that his face turned white. When Leng Ruoxue heard its words, she couldn't help but chuckle, ha ha ha. These two little beasts were also quite interesting. As expected of the subordinates of that out-of-line tiger. Seeing Leng Ruoxue's smile, the panda became a little embarrassed. It even lowered its head in embarrassment and kept playing with its claws. As expected. The second elder saw the panda's abnormal behavior and felt that his guess had become a fact. It seemed that being beautiful really had an advantage. He was a little jealous. In fact, he thought that he was not bad looking, but it was obvious that he had not caught the eyes of these two guys. However, this was also good. He didn't want to be fancied by two beastie. However, it wasn't a good thing to be entangled by two powerful beastie. Sigh. What should he do? The second elder was very conflicted. He really wanted to find a chance to escape, but he was also a little afraid that these two beasts would vent their anger on Leng Ruoxue and the demon. Even though they said that they were only targeting him, if he really ran away, that might not be the case. Furthermore, he was well aware that Leng Ruoxue and the demon would definitely not be able to run as fast as him. The second elder furrowed his brows as he struggled. Seeing this, Leng Ruoxue kindly reminded him, "Second elder. If you find an opportunity, you better run." However, not only did her words not receive the second elder's gratitude, but it also received the second elder's angry glare. The second elder was still thinking in his heart, "Don't I know how to run? I'm just afraid it'll implicate you." That detestable girl had actually put him in such a difficult position. Woo. MMH. Old man, hurry up and run. We promise we won't cause them any trouble. The giant golden monkey interrupted. Thanks, wretched girl, I'll be leaving first. You guys take care. After thinking for a moment, the second elder roared angrily and disappeared from his spot. Seeing that second elder had left, the giant golden monkey and panda bowed to Leng Ruoxue and chased after him. Shwa. The third wheel is finally gone. The demon said happily. N. Leng Ruoxue nodded her head, but she was laughing evilly in her heart. The second elder was going to be out of luck, because in the direction he was going, there were two beastie waiting for him. Schwar! Why didn't you let those two beastie fight here? Let's watch the fun. The demon was a little regretful. He really wanted to see the scene of the reverent god being beaten up by a group of beasts. It's not good to fight here. It's fine if we don't help, but it doesn't seem right if we just watch from the side. However, the place he's going to is even more dangerous than this. Len Ruoxue chuckled. Ha ha ha. The second elder must be very depressed. The demon said with a gloating smile. Although he really wanted to watch the battle, he would rather not do it for the sake of the second elder's face. Len Ruoxue nodded. This time, second elder wouldn't just be depressed. The two of them sat on a huge rock to rest. As Len Ruoxue had expected, second elder was being beaten up by 5 beasts. The second elder looked at the orcs surrounding him and smirking at him. The depression in his heart could no longer be described with words. Fuck, why isn't there any tofu here? It'd be better for him to bump into tofu than to be tortured to death by 5 godly venerable rank orcs, right? Originally, there were only 2 beasts chasing him. Who knew that after teleporting here, he would encounter 2 more? Before he could fight with the 4 beasts, another beast came out of nowhere. This increased the number of godly venerable rank beasts from 2 to 5. Sob. Even the family head would be depressed if he encountered such an unfortunate event. At this time, the 5 beasts all released their own pressure. The 5 layers of pressure made the second elder feel heavy and his breathing was a little difficult. Although the 5 beasts had not started to attack, he could already feel the threat of death. Moreover, he had lived for so long and experienced countless battles, but he had never felt so close to death in any battle. Brothers. Let's go together. The golden monkey laughed and gave the other 4 beasties a look. Then, the 5 beasties the size of small hills charged towards the second elder. In an instant, several claw marks were left on the second elder's body. Bright red blood dripped from the wounds to the ground. The second elder trembled in pain, and his legs were weak. However, this also ignited the second elder's fighting spirit. Since there was no way out, he might as well fight to the death. If he could kill 1 or 2 beasts, he would not die in vain. With this thought in mind, the second elder's aura changed greatly. He held the long sword in his hand and poured his divine power into it as he swung it into the air. Thousands of sword lights were drawn out. After turning in the air, they pounced towards the 5 beastie. The sword light carried a terrifying pressure and was extremely sharp. The divine power contained in it was even more majestic. After it flew toward the 5 beasts could not help but tremble and instinctively feel fear. Although they had the cultivation base of a hierarch, it was only for show. In fact, the highest cultivation base among them was only at the monarch god level. A true hierarch like the second elder was beyond their reach. Therefore, even if they frightened the second elder with their hierarch level cultivation base, they were not as strong as a hierarch in their hearts. Therefore, when the second elder fought them with all his might, they were frightened and stood in place stupidly. They had even forgotten to dodge. It was clear that their mental fortitude was far inferior to the Dark Tiger King's. The 5 beasts had already felt the fear of death when the sword ray hit them. However, when they realized that the second elder's sword ray had only left a few bloody marks on their bodies and that they were still alive, their confidence was instantly boosted, and they launched an attack on the second elder with their own strengths. In order to wash away the humiliation of their cowardice, the 5 beasts all used all their strength to fight with the second elder. In an instant, the second elder could feel that they were different from before and did not dare to let his guard down. As the second elder and the 5 beasts continued to exchange blows, the second elder slowly felt that his physical strength was not enough. When he ate the last pill to replenish his Shen power, he found an opening and teleported without thinking. Damn it, he ran away again. The giant golden monkey said gloomily. Chapter 1654, Second Tier Domain, 1, Don't worry. The monk can run but the temple can tee. He can't escape from our hands. Beastie, who looked like a panda, said with certainty. In fact, it was also quite depressed. It had thought that victory was in its grasp, but who knew that they would actually be frightened by that old man, causing them to lose the best opportunity to deal with him. Sigh. It seemed that they had not been trained enough. The other beasts nodded and then ran in the same direction. The second elder, who had teleported away, was already 1,000 miles away. He was sitting on a huge rock, panting heavily, his eyes carefully looking around. It was still all right. Those detestable beasts didn't chase after us, the second elder thought to himself. However, just as this thought formed in his mind, he heard a familiar voice ring in his ear. Hee. Old man, we're here. As soon as he finished speaking, the 5 beastie appeared at the same time. Instantly, the second elder's heart sank. Woo! These fellows who refused to leave were really too bad. Why did they keep pestering him? He couldn't understand why he couldn't get rid of them. This really made him depressed. However, what he couldn't accept was that the 5 beasts' fur was smooth and shiny. The injuries on their bodies had obviously healed a long time ago. He looked at himself and saw that he was still covered in wounds and in a sorry state. This made him extremely depressed. However, even though he was depressed, he still had to put in 120,000% of his energy to deal with these 5 beastie. Why was his life so hard? All of you, come at me together. Don't waste my time. The second elder steeled his heart and said with determination. Old man, why are you so depressed? The giant golden monkey had a look of surprise on its face, as if it had just heard some heavenly words. Cut the crap. My time is very precious. All of you, come at me together and don't waste everyone's time. The second elder said in a bad mood. He was determined to die and wanted to fight these beasts to the death. Who knew that these detestable beasts would actually play around like this? It was really infuriating. But we want to play slowly. The giant golden monkey said in an infuriating manner. The second elder was so angry that he couldn't catch his breath and almost fainted. Old man, life is so precious. It's not right for you to take things too hard, the giant golden monkey said in a serious tone. Fuck. Am I the one who can't take it? The second elder was so angry that he thought to himself, if it weren't for you guys being so persistent, why would I want to fight to the death? It's all because of you guys. Now, you're standing on the side and making sarcastic remarks. The more I think about it, the angrier I get. Are you guys going to fight or not? The second elder asked, suppressing his anger. Fight. But we're not in a hurry. The giant golden monkey laughed evilly. Stop talking nonsense. The second elder roared and immediately launched an attack. The long sword in his hand danced in the air like a dragon. Then, thousands of dragons rose into the air and charged straight at the 5 beastie. Although the 5 beastie were surprised, their mental fortitude was obviously much stronger. They looked at each other and scattered. This action made the dragons that were attacking them miss. However, the dragons formed by sword chi and divine power were not discouraged. They continued to chase and attack them. Thanks, this old man is really powerful. The giant golden monkey couldn't help but transmit his voice. That goes without saying. This is a genuine reverent god, not like us who are fake. Beastie, who looked like a panda, replied. Hee. So what if it's a second-rate product? We're reverent gods now. As long as we work together, we'll definitely be able to deal with this old man. Another beastie said. If the 5 of us can't even deal with him and the other brothers find out, we'll be laughed at. The giant golden monkey deeply agreed. Hence, this battle with this old man was a battle that concerned their reputation. Hence, they absolutely couldn't drop the ball. Then what are we waiting for? Let's attack together. The panda beastie said and gave the other beastie a look. Then, it was the first one to pounce towards the second elder. Seeing this, the other beastie also hurriedly attacked. Close combat. Long-range attack. The second elder was attacked from all four sides. He could defend the front, but he couldn't defend the back. He could defend the left side, but there were beasts attacking him from the right side. In the face of these shameless group attacks, the second elder was angry and anxious, but there was nothing he could do. He could only use all his skills to block and dodge left and right. After a long time, the second elder was on the verge of death due to the lack of physical and divine power. He lay on the ground weakly, his body full of injuries. The blood that flowed out dyed his clothes red while his opponent was still in high spirits, jumping up and down, waving his hands and legs as he watched from the side. The second elder could no longer be angry because he felt death approaching. He had lived for so long, but he had never been so close to death. He also felt despair. Was he really going to die here? Did he die in the hands of these beasts? He was so unwilling. You guys hurry up and do it. Although he was unwilling, the second elder still hoped that these beasts would give him a quick death. After all, a reverent god had the pride of a reverent god, and he could die, but he would not allow himself to be humiliated. If that's the case, then well, fulfill your wish. The five beastie looked at each other and then, they all teleported away. Ugh! The second elder was dumbfounded. What was going on? Why did those detestable beastie run away? The second elder, who had thought that he was going to die, was now at a loss. He did not know what the beasts were up to this time. Could it be that they had some bad idea again? At the thought of this, he suddenly became nervous. Fuck. Don't torment him anymore, just give him a quick death. Because he didn't know what the beasts were up to, the weak second elder lay on the ground, motionless. In fact, it was mainly because he had no strength in his body at the moment. He couldn't move even if he wanted to. However, after waiting for a long time, those beasts did not return. The second elder, who had gradually recovered some of his strength, slowly got up from the ground. Then, he sat cross-legged and began to absorb the spiritual chi with rapt attention. He did not have any more pills to recover his divine power, so he could only rely on absorbing spiritual chi bit by bit to turn it into divine power. The injuries on his body also needed the nourishment of spiritual chi. Without any pills, all of this would take a long time. Therefore, he was most afraid of a sudden attack from the beasts. While he was absorbing the spiritual chi, he also split off a trace of his weak divine sense to vigilantly observe the situation around him, in case any danger came. While second elder was recovering as if he was facing a great enemy, Len Ruoxiue had already started her patrol of the illusion sky. Chapter 1655, Second Tier Domain, 2, this time, she brought the evildoer to Qing Xian's side. Qing Xian, who was sitting cross-legged with his eyes closed to regulate his breathing, felt something strange beside him and quickly opened his eyes. When he saw that it was Lin Ruoxiue and that demonic man who had appeared beside him, his suspended heart was greatly relieved. Great Aunt! It's you! You scared me to death. Qing Xian heaved a sigh of relief. Then, he took a look at Lin Ruoxiue's cultivation and widened his eyes in disbelief. Great Aunt! You've already reached the god realm? He's really abnormal. Qing Xian said, making a fuss. Ah! Qing Xian's words made Lin Ruoxiue's forehead fill with black lines. Was she a pervert? She had always thought that she was just lucky. Great Aunt! Let's quickly leave this place, it's very dangerous here. Qing Xian looked at the surroundings and continued carefully. You're injured. Lin Ruoxiue reminded him. She knew that Qing Xian had forgotten that he was undergoing devilish training. Otherwise, he wouldn't be so alert. I know. After Qing Xian finished speaking, he took out a pill from his storage ring and stuffed it into his mouth. Then, he stood up. Great Aunt, let's quickly leave this place. Qing Xian urged. Since you have pills, why didn't you eat them before? Lin Ruoxiue was speechless. I have to keep it. I don't know what kind of place this is and when I can leave this place. Sigh. Qing Xian was very depressed. He had already consumed a lot of the pills in his hands. Therefore, unless he was seriously injured, he would not be willing to eat them. However, after seeing Leng Ruoxue, his confidence was restored. Great Aunt, you have a pill in your hand, right? Give me some. Qing Xian asked shamelessly. There is. But, what if I give it to you? Leng Ruoxue said on purpose. I'm protecting you. Qing Xian said matter-of-factly. Young Master Cheng, haven't you heard of the saying it's better to ask for help than to ask for help from others? I prefer to rely on myself rather than you protecting me. Leng Ruoxue said with a smile. Great Aunt. Just give me some. You can easily refine pills, but I can't. Qing Xian ignored Leng Ruoxue's rejection and pleaded with a bitter face. I can make it easily, but I need the herbs. Why don't you provide the materials and I'll help you refine it? Leng Ruoxue chuckled as she suggested. She wasn't being petty. However, this was demonic training, after all. If she gave Qing Xian the pill, it would be extremely unfair to the others, especially to those elders who were struggling on the line of death. So, she could not open this back door, or else, what was the point of this demonic training? Great Aunt. Qing Xian's eyes were filled with tears as he looked at Leng Ruoxue pitifully. However, Leng Ruoxue was unmoved. Instead, she smiled at Qing Xian and said, Young Master Cheng. You take care. Let's go take a look elsewhere. After she finished speaking, she pulled the evildoer and disappeared, leaving behind a furious Qing Xian. Thanks. After leaving Qing Xian's place, Leng Ruoxue brought the evildoer with her and left the fantasy sky. Sitting in the garden of the main residence, Leng Ruoxue and the demon enjoyed the images displayed on the screen as they ate the freshly baked desserts. In the blink of an eye, 3 months had passed. In these 3 months, Leng Ruoxue first made some adjustments to the rules of the demonic training. This was because during her previous inspection, she realized that many of the beasties were reluctant to kill. Sometimes, when they could clearly kill their opponents, they would just let them go. As a result, the meaning of the demonic training would be diluted. She was very clear that this was because those supporting beasties didn't want to end the demonic training too early. To put it bluntly, those beasties who loved to stir up trouble hadn't had enough fun yet. With this in mind, Leng Ruoxue adjusted the rules. Originally, the humans and beasts who participated in the training in the illusory sky would be sent out once they died, ending their demonic training. However, Leng Ruoxue had now adjusted the number of deaths to 3. Furthermore, even if they had died, they would not remember what had happened and would have to start from the beginning. On top of that, she had also warned the beasts not to show any mercy. Otherwise, they would be the ones to be punished. In fact, the reason why she was so strict was not because she wanted to see the second elder and the others die. She just wanted them to experience the threat of death. Only after experiencing the test of life and death would their minds be more determined and have the opportunity to accept the next training. Because, the training after that would be even more terrifying. After some adjustments, the inside of the illusory sky was now as she had hoped. The enthusiasm for battle was high, especially for Beastie, who was helping with the auxiliary training. His desire for battle had reached a peak, and this situation was something she was very happy to see. Leng Ruoxue and the evildoer sat in the garden as usual. For the past 3 months, the evildoer's life had been very comfortable because there was no third wheel to disturb him and Schweier's alone time. However, he knew very well that this kind of life would not last for long. Although he was a little depressed, he had no choice but to accept it. Suddenly, a silver light flashed in front of Leng Ruoxue and the demon. Following that, a half-grown old man appeared in front of them. This half-grown old man was the 19th elder who had just experienced 3 deaths and had been sent out of the illusion heaven. However, 19th elder still looked confused. He was clearly not used to it. Wasn't he dead? Why would he appear here? 19th elder's face was full of question marks. As his memories slowly recovered, the memories before his death also rushed into his mind like a tide. Suddenly, he remembered that he had died during the devil training. Moreover, the feeling of death was still fresh in his mind. 19th Elder was stunned for a moment. Then, he felt a piercing pain in his body. A trace of sweet blood flowed out from the corner of his mouth, and his body fell down involuntarily. Looking at the unconscious 19th Elder, Len Ruoxue took out a healing pill and stuffed it into 19th Elder's mouth. After a while, 19th Elder opened his eyes. Although the injuries on his body had already healed, the 19th Elder tragically discovered that his strength had actually regressed. Originally, his strength could be ranked in the upper middle level among the Divine Emperors, but now, he was only at the early Divine Emperor level. This made him feel very pained. "What kind of hellish training is this?" the second elder said with a look of grief and indignation. "I've been weakened because of this." He was so angry that he wished he could bite Len Ruoxue a few times. However, Len Ruoxue did not take his anger to heart and only said indifferently, "If you die, your strength will naturally decline. In fact, you should be glad that you didn't decline to the level of a divine king." You, 19th Elder was angered to death by Len Ruoxue's words. His chest heaved up and down rapidly, and the finger he pointed at Len Ruoxue was trembling. Chapter 1656, Second Tier Domain, 3, Telling the Truth. If you're only an early God Emperor, you'll definitely fall back to the God King stage. So, you should feel lucky. Len Ruoxue said in an infuriating manner. "So to say. I have to thank you." The 19th Elder roared in anger. "There's no need to thank me, just don't hate me." Len Ruoxue laughed evilly. "It would be strange if I didn't hate you." However, at this moment, the 19th Elder, who was mourning the loss of his strength, did not want to bother with Len Ruoxue at all. After glaring at Len Ruoxue fiercely, he left in a fit of anger. "Schwaer! The 19th Elder hates you to death." Looking at the back of the 19th Elder, the demon laughed. "It doesn't matter. Hell thank me in the future." Len Ruoxue replied nonchalantly and turned her gaze towards the screen. 19th Elder was the first to leave the fantasy sky. Who would be next? On the other side. After returning to his residence, 19th Elder sat cross-legged on his bed and began to slowly cultivate. However, a week later, he clearly felt that his cultivation speed was much faster than before. He was pleasantly surprised, but he did not think much about it. However, his confidence in improving his cultivation to his original strength as soon as possible had increased a lot. At this rate, his strength should be able to recover in at most half a year. It turned out that 19th Elder's estimation was a little conservative. It had not been 3 months, and his strength had returned to normal. During this period, more elders had been sent out of the illusion heaven on and off. When they first came out, their reactions were similar to 19th Elder's. Their hearts were filled with grief and anger, especially the few elders who had dropped to God King cultivation. They wished they could skin Len Ruoxue alive. However, after calming down, they knew that they could not do anything to Len Ruoxue. They could only admit that they were unlucky and start cultivating seriously. However, after cultivating for a period of time, they all discovered that their cultivation speed had increased, just like the 19th Elder. This made them overjoyed. Not only that, but they were also surprised to find that their mental state cultivation had improved as well. This was simply a pleasant surprise to them, but it was so great that they couldn't believe it. After discovering this fact, their enthusiasm for cultivation grew even higher. After their strength recovered to their previous cultivation level, they continued to cultivate diligently. Time passed. A year later. The humans and beasts who had entered the fantasy sky for the demonic training had all come out. When the second elder and the others came out, they all looked angry, but Feng De and the others were happy, because many of them had never died before. They were transported out by the illusion sky when their time was up. After coming out of the illusion heaven, they were like the second elder and the others. They made the best use of their time to cultivate, and they naturally entered the bracelet to cultivate. From the start, they were much better than the second elder and the others. After half a year of closed-door cultivation, Ling Qingtian, Fengde, and the others had all advanced to the god realm. This result made everyone extremely happy. His grandfather, brother, and Fengde had all advanced, so they naturally had to celebrate. However, without Leng Ruoxu's instructions, everyone started to prepare food on their own. After they were done, Fengde personally went to invite second elder and the others. At this moment, the second elder and the rest had all recovered their previous strength. Their cultivation speed had increased and their mental state had improved. This caused their resentment towards Leng Ruoxue to decrease by a lot. Even so, they could not bring themselves to lose face. Some of the elders still did not give Leng Ruoxue a good look. However, Feng Die's personal invitation had given them a way out of this embarrassing situation. Hence, all the elders gladly accepted the invitation. At this moment, the garden was extremely lively. Leng Ruoxu's subordinates and beastie, as well as the elders who were still pulling a long face, were gathered together. Today is to celebrate the improvement in everyone's strength, so let's play to our heart's content. Leng Ruoxu's beautiful eyes surveyed the crowd as she chuckled. Hee hee. Don't worry, miss. We won't be polite. Fengde laughed. Leng Ruoxue nodded, then turned her gaze towards second elder and the rest. We won't be polite either. The second elder said unwillingly. He still had resentment in his heart. Because as long as he thought of his wishful thinking in the illusionary sky, he wanted to find a hole to hide in. When he saw Leng Ruoxue in the illusionary sky, he actually thought that he was infallible and wanted Leng Ruoxue and that evil-looking man to leave quickly. He even wanted to create a chance for them to live. In reality, she did not need it at all. Now that he thought about it, he was really stupid. No wonder she was not anxious at all back then and even told him to run. Woo, he was too honest. Second elder, you were so loyal last time. I think I should offer you a toast. Leng Ruoxue touched on a sore spot and even raised her wine glass after she finished speaking. Seeing this, the second elder was extremely depressed, but he had no choice but to politely raise his glass and return the toast. Second elder, why are you so loyal? The seventh elder asked curiously. Although the others didn't say anything, they all looked at the second elder with anticipation. It's nothing. It's just a small matter, not worth mentioning. The second elder's cheeks were slightly red. It was unknown if it was due to embarrassment or because of the wine. Thanks, hee hee. Second elder, I'm sorry. Leng Ruoxue said with a faint smile. I'm not embarrassed. The second elder gritted his teeth in anger as he glared at Leng Ruoxue. All right. You're not embarrassed, you're just blushing. Leng Ruoxue said helplessly. The second elder was a little exasperated and ignored Leng Ruoxue. Leng Ruoxue also knew when to stop. When she saw second elder's silence, she pulled the demon back into her room and entered the bracelet. The departure of Leng Ruoxue and the evildoer did not affect the enthusiasm of the others. They played until late at night, until they were drunk in the garden. The next day, when Leng Ruoxue and the demon came out of the room, they saw Fengde and the rest lying all over the garden. This was not the first time they had gotten so drunk. Besides that, second elder and the rest were also among those who had gotten drunk. However, second elder and the rest were not completely drunk. Not only that, second elder's hand was still tightly holding onto the disheveled old man's as he mumbled something like good brother. Seeing them in this state, cold sweat began to drip from Leng Ruoxue's forehead. No wonder people said that men's friendship was on the table. It seemed that after last night, the relationship between those elders and Fengde and the others had become closer, which was a good sign. At this time, Yu Qing and the others, who had returned to their rooms early last night, also came to the garden. When they saw the scene in the garden, they were all speechless. Heavens! How much did they drink? Yu Qing was speechless. The wine that we brought out is all gone. Yu Qing, you guys send them back to their rooms. Leng Ruoxue sighed helplessly. All right. Yu Qing and the others nodded. Then, they each dragged a person back to their room like a sack. After a busy morning, she finally managed to get all the drunk people back to their positions. As for the drunk beasts, they were kept into Leng Ruoxu's bracelet. The drunk people slept for 3 whole days before they got out of bed. The first thing Feng De and the rest did when they woke up was to visit Leng Ruoxue. "Miss. We just woke up." Feng De and the others were a little embarrassed. I know." Leng Ruoxue nodded her head. "Go and call in the second elder and the others." Leng Ruoxue ordered. "Yes." Feng De quickly responded. When they came, they were a little nervous, afraid that Miss would blame them. Who knew that Miss didn't mention this at all? This made them feel relieved. Hee hee. Miss is so good. Feng De turned around and left. Not long after, the second elder and the others were brought into the living room. "Why are you looking for us?" the somewhat haggard second elder asked on behalf of all the elders. They had just woken up and this wretched girl had already sent someone to look for them, causing them to not have the time to properly wash up. Their image. "It's been a year since your last demonic training. Are you ready for the next training?" Leng Ruoxue said with a calm smile. There's still training." The second elder stammered. They had died 3 times during the last demonic training, and they had also felt the arrival of death 3 times. That feeling was still fresh in their minds, and they couldn't forget it even if they wanted to. Why did this wretched girl still want to come? "Last time, you only went to the first realm of the illusory sky. In fact, there are 3 realms in the illusory sky. Next, you will be going to the second realm. However, this time, it's voluntary. So, I want to ask you, who is interested in experiencing the second realm?" Leng Ruoxue said with a smile. However, in the eyes of the second elder and the others, her smile was definitely a smile used by the big bad wolf to trick Little Red Riding Hood. Therefore, they immediately became vigilant. Even though Leng Ruoxue said that they could go on their own accord, but if they chose not to go, would it affect their position in the old Grand Madame's heart? The elders' minds were spinning, repeatedly thinking about the benefits, but no one was the first to speak. "Don't worry. This time, it's absolutely voluntary. Even if you don't want to go, I won't tell Godfather." Leng Ruoxue saw their expressions and knew what they were conflicted about. Hence, she kindly added on. However, in the hearts of the elders, her words were clearly not very credible. At this moment, a voice interrupted, "I want to go." Chapter 1657, Trial Space, 1, Are you sure you want to go? Leng Ruoxue raised her head and looked at the owner of the voice. N. Qing Xian nodded and looked at Leng Ruoxue curiously. "It will be very dangerous." Leng Ruoxue reminded. "It doesn't matter. However, you have to prepare more pills for me," Qing Xian said shamelessly. He could not make the same mistake again. This time, he had to bring enough pills. "All right. However, you have to prepare the materials yourself," Leng Ruoxue said with a smile. "No way. How can you be so petty?" Qing Xian's face was bitter as he said gloomily. Where would he have the materials now? "I can't help it. I have too many people to feed. Besides, you're not my subordinate, so I have no obligation to give you anything for free. More importantly, your Qing family is rich and powerful, so you can't possibly be short of these materials, right? If you don't have the materials, you can buy them with money," Leng Ruoxue said with a smile. It was impossible for her to give it to others for free. She must not develop the habit of getting it without putting in any effort. Moreover, she was not a philanthropist. Her medicinal herbs did not come from the wind. How could she give it to others for free? "All right then. I'll use money to buy it," Qing Xian said helplessly. "No problem. Elders, if you don't have enough pills, you can also buy from me. If you don't have the money, just write me an IOU." I believe in your credibility, you will definitely not renege on your debt. Leng Ruoxue said with certainty. However, her trust in him made the second elder and the others quite depressed. Of course, they would not go back on their word, but wasn't it a little too much to ask them to write an IOU? They had lived for so long, but they had never signed an IOU before. We didn't say we were going to the second-tier domain of the illusion heaven. The 19th elder said angrily. In other words, we don't need to buy medicinal pills from you. The first elder of the Ning family was an alchemist. In addition to the Ning family's influential position in the divinity, they had never been short of pills. However, they had almost finished eating all the pills during the devil training in the fantasy sky. Hence, if they wanted to enter the second-tier realm, they really had to buy pills from Leng Ruoxue. However, the 19th elder really did not like Leng Ruoxue's confident tone. Otherwise, he would not have said that. You're all not going. I only found out today that you're all so cowardly. Young Master Cheng is only a god king, yet he dares to try his second-tier domain. How could you not dare? Leng Ruoxue said disappointedly. Feng De and the rest in the room were also looking at the elders with disdain. Who says we don't dare to go? The second elder said angrily. Even though he knew that Leng Ruoxue was just goading him, he had no choice but to take the bait. He could not allow others to say that they were cowards and that they did not dare to. To them, this was a huge humiliation. Then you guys are going? Leng Ruoxue asked with uncertainty. Miss. They will definitely go. Didn't second elders say that they would dare to go? Feng De didn't give the elders a chance to speak and rushed to speak. Oh. Since that's the case, then all of you can go. I'll give you 3 days to prepare. 3 days later, I'll send you into the second domain of the illusionary sky. Leng Ruoxue gave the final word. When the elders heard this, they could only nod their heads gloomily. Now that things had come to this, if they refused, they would lose all their face. If you're afraid that you don't have enough pills, you can buy them from me. Leng Ruoxue added. How long do we need to stay in the second-tier domain? The second elder could not help but ask. At least half a year. Leng Ruoxue spoke the truth. However, she was still holding back. Hee. Thanks, will I still die? The second elder asked with lingering fear. I will. However, this time, you can choose for yourself. You'll know the details when you go in. Leng Ruoxue kept him in suspense. Oh. The second elder was very depressed because Leng Ruoxue's words were as good as not saying anything. All right. You guys should go back to your rooms and rest. I'll send you to the fantasy sky in 3 days. I'm afraid it'll be at least half a year before I see you again. Take good care of yourself. Leng Ruoxue laughed. We will, the second elder gritted his teeth. He didn't know what this wretched girl was up to this time. Woo! Why were their lives so bitter? After saying that, the depressed second elder led the other elders back to his residence. After they left, Feng De couldn't help but ask, Miss. What was inside the second realm? What's the difference between this and the devil training? He was itching to know the situation inside in advance. The Buddha said, can't say. You'll know when you enter. Leng Ruoxue laughed evilly. Miss. Feng De and the rest had a bitter expression on their faces as they looked at Leng Ruoxue with grievance. Boo-hoo. The young miss was really too evil. She even kept it a secret from them. All right. You guys do as you please. I'm going to prepare the pills for them. After Leng Ruoxue finished speaking, she pulled the demon back to her room and immediately went into her bangle to refine the pill. 3 days later. Everyone gathered in the garden. Leng Ruoxue's beautiful eyes swept across the crowd. Then, she took out hundreds of small porcelain bottles from her bracelet and placed them on the stone table in the garden. She then said to the elders and the rest, the elixirs that you can use are all here. Since we are all acquaintances, I will only charge you the cost price, 10 top-grade crystals for a bottle. No bargaining. Leng Ruoxue said with a smile. However, when the elders heard Leng Ruoxue's words, not only did they not reveal any happy expressions, their faces darkened instead. There were even elders who couldn't help but complain in their hearts. Such a small bottle, and it cost 10 pieces of top-grade crystals. This was really too underhanded. This was clearly robbery. Moreover, this seemed to be the cost price. With such a high cost price, how much would it be worth if it was sold at the market price? The pills they needed now were nothing more than ordinary healing pills and divine power replenishing pills. These pills could sell for a high price on the market not because they were expensive, but because they required a lot of medicinal materials. Even if those materials were only ordinary medicinal materials, they were used in large quantities, so their market price was not low. However, no matter how expensive those pills were, they could not be sold for 10 top-grade crystals at their cost price. He was clearly treating them as fools. Are you guys buying? Leng Ruoxue asked again when she saw that the elders were silent. I'll buy it. 10 premium crystal stones were nothing to him. However, more importantly, he believed that if Leng Ruoxue's products could be sold at such a price for healing pills and divine power replenishing pills, they would definitely be better than those cheap ones on the market. Young Master Cheng has good eyes. Leng Ruoxue praised. Hee. As your first customer, can I give you a discount? Qing Xian asked shamelessly. I said no bargaining, but since you're the first one to show your support, I'll give you one more pill for each bottle. Buy more, get more free. Leng Ruoxue promised. Chapter 1658, Trial Space, 2, then give me 10 bottles of each. Qing Xian said without even thinking. No problem, he said. Leng Ruoxue nodded happily. Then, she took out 20 bottles of elixirs and passed them to Qing Xian. After that, she took out a small bottle each and said to Qing Xian, "This is for you." Thank you. Qing Xian was very satisfied and opened a small porcelain bottle to take a look. However, he immediately closed the bottle cap again. In that instant, he felt the rich spiritual energy in the bottle rush at his face. This medicine was far beyond his expectations. Give me another 100 bottles of each. Qing Xian said without any hesitation after he had inspected the goods. Although the Qing family did not lack healing and god power replenishing elixirs, the elixirs at home were nothing compared to Leng Ruoxue's. These were the real top-tier elixirs. All right, he said. Leng Ruoxue was overjoyed. After passing him the 200 bottles of elixirs, she gave him 10 bottles of each type and completed the transaction. After completing this huge transaction, Leng Ruoxue was in an extremely good mood. Therefore, even if those elders did not buy it, she did not care. After all, once they entered the second stage domain, they would know how important these pills were. And when those elders saw Qing Xian buy so much at once, they were even more afraid to make a move. Because in their eyes, Qing Xian was just a prop. Who would buy so many of these ordinary pills at once? This kind of behavior was simply squandering. Elders, are you really not buying? Leng Ruoxue asked one last time. This was the last chance she was giving them. All the elders looked at each other and stared at each other. Finally, the second elder said, "Then I'll buy a bottle of each." In fact, he didn't want to buy it, but he really didn't have any pills on hand. Just in case, he decided to buy a bottle to keep as a guarantee. But when he thought of the price, he felt a little pained. Second elder, you won't regret this. Leng Ruoxue said with a smile. I hope so. With a pained expression, the second elder took out 20 top-grade crystals from his storage ring and handed them over. After receiving the small porcelain bottle from Leng Ruoxue, he stored it into his storage ring without even looking at it. What about you guys? After concluding her deal with the second elder, Leng Ruoxue turned her attention to the other elders. The other elders saw that they couldn't avoid it, so they bought a few bottles. After the transaction was completed, Leng Ruoxue took out the fantasy sky and placed it in the empty space in the garden. With a flash of silver light, the second elder and the others in the garden were sucked in. You guys go in too. Len Ruoxue then said to Fengde and the rest. Yes. Fengde and the others nodded, then walked into the illusory sky in a good mood. After everyone had left, only Len Ruoxue and the demon were left in the garden. Shwaa. It's just us again, that's good. The demon hugged Len Ruoxue into his arms and said happily. However, you'll be entering the fantasy sky to challenge the second-level domain later. Len Ruoxue said guiltily. She had not discussed this with the demon. Thanks, you're going in too. Then I'll go too. The demon didn't even think and said. Good. Well, go in together. Len Ruoxue nodded. Then, she turned her gaze to the screen in the garden. The second elder and the others were now in a dusky space. Fortunately, they did not split up this time. However, in this place where they could not even see their own fingers, even if they gathered together, they would not be of much use. Second elder, what the hell is this place? Within the second layer of the illusionary sky domain, an elder said in a depressed manner. You're asking me, but who should I ask? In reality, he was also worried that Len Ruoxue would mess with them. However, after seeing Fengde and the rest, he was much more at ease. After all, that wretched girl would not put her subordinates and family in danger just to mess with them. However, this place was indeed strange. Not only was it eerie, but it also felt like someone was watching them. The second elder and the others looked cautious. Compared to Fengde and the others, they were much calmer. Moreover, Qing Xian had been mixed in with Fengde and the others, which was enough to prove that he was smart. Just as everyone was bewildered, suddenly, a lightning bolt that looked like a fire snake shot out from the gray fog. Although the lightning bolt wasn't very thick, it was as fast as the wind. It flickered with electric sparks as it headed straight for the second elder and the others. When the second elder and the others saw this, they couldn't help but curse in their hearts. Isn't this too much bullying? There were so many people, but this lightning didn't chase after them. Instead, it targeted them. What was this? In order to avoid the attack of lightning, the elders immediately scattered. Lightning saw that it had lost its target, so it spun in the air and flew back into the thick fog. Following that, a screen appeared in front of everyone. On it, several time options were displayed. There were 6 months, 1 year, 2 years, and so on. The longest was 10 years. The second elder and the others had never seen such a thing before, so they all looked at Fengde with a blank expression. How long do you want to stay here? Just choose that one. Seeing this, Fengde held back his laughter, but he couldn't help but sigh in his heart. These elders of the Ning family really had not seen the world. After all, they weren't as stupid as they were when they first saw this kind of thing. Oh. All the elders understood. Moreover, they did not want to stay here for too long, so they all chose the option of half a year. However, just as he made his choice, a line of words appeared on the screen. When the elders saw it, they were so angry that they almost vomited blood. Because the words were written, you must pass all 10 levels within half a year. Otherwise, you will be punished and may even stay inside forever. What? Pass all 10 stages in half a year? They didn't even know what kind of trial this was. If they couldn't make it through within half a year, wouldn't they be asking for trouble? Fuck. This was really too much. Why didn't you tell them before you made your choice? This was clearly a belated effort. All the elders secretly sighed to themselves. This fact made them extremely depressed. Following that, they turned their gazes towards Fengde and the others, only to see that they had all chosen the option of 10 years. Instantly, the elders' anger rose again. Are you in cahoots with that wretched girl? You deliberately tricked us into choosing the one that would take half a year while you chose the one that would take the longest time. 19th Elder was the first to launch an attack. He was so angry that smoke was rising from the top of his head. Collude. Why don't you try skewering one for me? Before we came in, we didn't know what kind of place this is, just like you. Also, we didn't trick you into choosing this place for half a year. Please be clear about this. Feng De said coldly. In his heart, he despised the 19th elder. Don't think that he didn't know that these old guys clearly didn't want to stay here for too long, so they chose the option with the least time. Now that they knew that they had to pass the 10 levels in half a year, they were afraid of being punished for not completing it, so they pushed the responsibility onto them. So what if they thought they were soft persimmons that could be bullied? Chapter 1659, Trial Space, 3, Then why did you choose the longest option? You guys clearly know the situation here. The 19th elder tried to quibble. We chose the longest option because we're weak, so we want to stay here longer. Besides, is 10 years that long? I'm afraid that your closed-door cultivation will take more than 10 years, right? Feng De said with a mocking expression. 19th elder was speechless because what Feng De said was the truth. However, he was really unwilling to give up. After receiving the glare of the second elder, he obediently shut his mouth. Hee. I've also chosen 10 years. Qing Xian said with a smile. You're wise. Feng De gave Qing Xian an appreciative look. This young master of the Qing family was much more observant than some of the elders of the Ning family. I've benefited a lot from the devil's training, so I want to stay here for a few more days. Besides, 10 years is really nothing. Qing Xian said honestly. That's more like it. Young miss wouldn't have let us come here for no reason. Feng De nodded. At this moment, a bone-chilling laughter suddenly rang out in the gray space, causing everyone's hair to stand on end. Who is it? Who's talking? The 19th elder asked nervously. His eyes were even more cautious, and he looked around with extreme vigilance. Stop looking, you can't see me. The voice chuckled evilly and continued, I am the manager of this space. Now, I will tell you the rules here. The space that you are in now can only be considered as the periphery. This is also the safest place. Although there will occasionally be things coming out from inside, it is much safer than the inside. The place where you will be passing through is in this dense fog. After you go in, it will form an independent training space. So, you don't have to worry about others seeing your embarrassing appearance when you pass through. The self-proclaimed space manager said with a smirk. If you succeed, you can go to the next level, but if you fail, you will be teleported out. Also, the difficulty of each level is determined by your strength. Usually, the higher your strength, the more difficult it is to pass. So, I really don't think that you guys can pass all 10 levels in half a year, but this is good. Maybe you will have the chance to stay here with me, hee. I'm also quite lonely. The space manager was smiling very happily. However, its overjoyed laughter made the second elder and the others feel very uncomfortable. Every round was based on their strength. Didn't that mean that it was almost the same as the devil training? After all, the orcs they met in the devil training were on par with them. This fact made them extremely depressed. Right now, they were well aware that this stage was definitely not easy to pass. In addition, this fantasy sky belonged to that wretched lass. Therefore, it would not be easy for them to leave this place. In fact, some elders were already certain that Leng Ruoxue was trying to mess with them. Otherwise, why would she make the opposite choice this time around? Last time, they would be teleported out when the time was up or they died 3 times. This time, they had to pass all 10 levels when the time was up, or they would have to stay in there and be punished. As long as they thought of the unknown punishment, their hearts would be filled with panic. Alright. I've already told you everything you need to know. Is there anything you don't understand? Seeing that no one said anything for a long time, the space manager could only continue to talk to himself. We understand. Can we start now? Feng De said impatiently. Yes. Hee. If you want to start, just go through the door on the left. Don't go through the door on the right. That's the path leading to the 3-layered domain, and it's even more dangerous there. If you're not careful, your soul will be scattered. So, you must be careful. The space manager reminded him with a sinister smile. Thank you for the reminder. We will remember it. Fengde said gratefully. I like polite children, go. I'll protect you. The space manager said very kindly. We're going in. Fengde was the first to enter the door on the left, followed by Ling Qingtian and the others. Seeing that Fengde and the others had almost left, the second elder then said to the other elders, let's go in too. They couldn't be looked down upon by others. The elders nodded. They only had half a year's time, and their future was uncertain, so they really couldn't afford to waste this time. After that, the elders entered one by one. The room they were in was a small space, less than 50 square meters. There were no decorations inside, and it was very empty. After the second elder entered, he first observed the surrounding environment, but did not find any abnormalities. Moreover, this space was so small that one could see the end of it at a glance. It was not shrouded in fog, so one could see everything clearly. He stood in the space in a daze, not knowing what to do. After a long time, everything was still normal. Thanks, the second elder sighed softly and sat on the ground casually. After an unknown period of time, the second elder, who had been resting with his eyes closed, suddenly opened his bright eyes and looked around vigilantly. He heard a sound that sounded like the wind, but he was not sure because the sound of the wind was different from what he knew. Just as the second elder was feeling extremely puzzled, suddenly, a gust of wind whistled through the air. The wind seemed to fill the entire space, and lightning as thick as a baby's arm was mixed in the wind. The dark gray hurricane was filled with electric sparks as it bared its fangs and brandished its claws at the second elder. The second elder was shocked and immediately calmed his mind. The next second, the hurricane drowned him. In the wind, the second elder controlled his boat's balance as he dodged to the left and to the right to block the lightning attacks. The lightning came from the center of the storm, where there were countless lightning clouds. However, their attacks were very orderly, and they were shot out from the center of the lightning clouds in an orderly manner. Fortunately, the wind was not an attack. Even so, if one was not careful, the person in the wind would be swept into the center of the lightning. If that happened, they would either die or be injured. The wind accompanied by lightning wreaked havoc on the second elder's body for a long time before he reluctantly left. Then, the voice of the space manager sounded in the space. Old man, you've passed the first test. When the second elder heard this voice, he finally felt relieved. At this moment, the second elder was both mentally and physically exhausted. After a long time of being under high pressure and tension, he fell to the ground. At this time, his clothes were already drenched in sweat. His entire body was in a sorry state. He was covered in wounds, and blood was flowing out of them. Do you want to continue with the second stage? After a long while, the space manager asked. No. I want to rest. The second elder said in an extremely weak voice. With his current physical condition, continuing to challenge the levels would only be courting death. AI. They didn't expect the second realm to be like this. They didn't have a real sparring partner, and their opponent was the mysterious power of nature. He didn't know how long it took him to pass the first level, but he knew how much he had paid. He didn't even have a chance to attack, but just dodging the omnipresent lightning had consumed almost all of his divine power. Fortunately, he had passed this level in the end. Otherwise, he would have been depressed to death. All right. The space manager said. Then, a bright light transported the second elder out. After returning to his original place, the second elder immediately sat down cross-legged to regulate his breathing and seized the time to absorb the spiritual qi in the space. Fortunately, the spiritual qi here was still quite dense, otherwise, he would have been depressed to death. Actually, he could have taken a pill to replenish his divine power. However, he had run out of his stock during the hellish training and he had only bought a bottle from Lengruoxue. Hence, he could not bear to take it. Now that he thought about it, he really regretted it. If he was like Qing Xian, buying a few hundred bottles, he could continue to break through the levels. Sigh. He regretted it so much that his intestines turned green. However, there was no medicine for regret in this world, so he could only accept his fate. The only thing he could pray for now was that he would be able to complete all 10 stages within half a year. Not long after the second elder came out of the trial space, more people were sent out one after another. Moreover, the people who were sent out were all elders of the Ning family, and each of them had a bloody wound on their body. This fact made the second elder and the others very depressed. Second elder. Why are we the only ones out? Where are Fengde and the others? The 19th elder asked with a pale face. The anger in his heart was rising. They haven't come out yet. The second elder said in a low voice. He was the first person to come out from inside. We've already been transported out. How could they not have come out after so long? 19th elder's face was filled with doubt. Fuck. Could there be something fishy going on? 19th elder, how many levels did you pass? The second elder ignored the 19th elder's words and changed the topic. I've passed 2 stages, and the 3rd stage has been sent out. The 19th elder said gloomily. I've only passed 1 level. The second elder couldn't help but ask. Chapter 1660, I don't wish to speak to you. 1. How is this possible? 19th elder had a look of disbelief. What's impossible? I'm a reverent god, and this stage alone almost used up all my divine power. The second elder said gloomily. Second elder, what are you going to do next? The 19th elder said worriedly. In fact, his result was not much better than the second elder's. After 2 rounds, he did not have much Shin power left. Going to the 3rd round was just to explore the way. Of course we have to go through the stages one by one. However, I am more worried about our Shin power. We only have half a year's time. If we don't make good use of it, who knows what kind of punishment we will receive next. The second elder said worriedly. AI. Who said it wasn't he? Why don't we buy some pills from young Master Cheng? The 19th elder suggested. Will he sell it? The second elder was not too sure. He'll definitely sell it. Our 2 families have been friends for generations. He can't just leave us in the lurch. The 19th elder said with absolute certainty. Their time was tight, and their tasks were heavy, especially in the later stages of the trial, which would be even more difficult. Therefore, they had no time to slowly absorb spiritual qi. Therefore, pills that could quickly recover divine power became their first choice. The reason why he was so sure that Qing Xian would definitely sell the pills to them, other than the fact that the 2 families were friends for generations, was also because Qing Xian had 10 years to pass the trials here, unlike them, who were pressed for time. Then we'll ask him after he comes out. The second elder said softly. He was not as confident as the 19th elder. After all, Qing Xian also needed pills to replenish his divine power, even though he was not in as much of a hurry as they were. Yes. 19th elder nodded and calculated how many pills he had to buy to pass the 10 rounds. However, after waiting for a long time, Qing Xian still had not come out of the trial space. A month had already passed. During this time, the second elder had completed the 2nd stage, while the 19th elder and the others had also passed the 3rd stage. The difficulty of each of the 10 trials was greater than the previous one. Now, some of the elders were already feeling extremely strained, and this was only the beginning. As the elders watched anxiously, another month passed. The second elder, who was the most powerful among them, had only passed the 3rd level. The other elders were stuck at the 5th level. Second elder, there are 3 more months before our deadline is up. None of these people have come out yet. This is really infuriating. Did something happen to them inside? In the dusky space, the 19th elder said with a crow's mouth. Don't talk nonsense. This place was created by Leng Ruoxue. How could she watch her subordinate get into an accident? The second elder quickly rebuked. What's wrong? Does the 19th elder really want us to meet with an accident? All of a sudden, Feng Da's voice entered their ears. The 19th elder was shocked. Fuck. They didn't come out earlier or later, but why did they come out when he said this? Moreover, they actually came out together. How could he believe that there was nothing fishy going on between them and that wretched girl? Hee hee. I didn't mean it that way. I'm just a little worried about you guys. The 19th elder said awkwardly. Although he suspected that they were lying, he could only accept his fate. There's no need to worry about us. 19th elder, you should worry more about yourself. You don't have much time left. Feng Da said with a smirk. After hearing Feng Da's words, all the elders present were livid with anger. What did he mean by their time was running out? Although they understood that Feng Da was referring to the time limit of their trials, what Feng Da said did not sound right to them. Thanks, what are you saying? The 19th elder said in a slightly displeased tone. The other elders could bear it, but he couldn't. What did I say? Feng Da looked surprised, as if he didn't understand why 19th elder was angry. He looked at him innocently. You said we don't have much time. We're alive and well, how can we not have much time left? The 19th elder roared. Hee hee. Just because of this small matter. 19th elder, you're thinking too much. I didn't say that you're dying. What I meant was that the time for your trial is almost up. I'm just worried for you. Feng Da said, feeling wronged. Humph. After hearing Feng Da's explanation, 19th elder turned his head to the other side proudly, not looking at him. Seeing this, Feng Da did not want to be snubbed, so he led Lin Yuan and the others to find a corner to sit down. However, as soon as they sat down, 19th elder came over. Young Master Cheng. What took you so long? The 19th elder looked at Qing Xian and said very kindly. I've been challenging the levels, so they should be as well. Qing Xian replied honestly. Although he didn't know what the 19th elder's intentions were, good children shouldn't lie. Then which level did you pass? The 19th elder asked in surprise. It's time for the 8th trial. Qing Xian chuckled, his face full of joy. He had not expected that he would be able to pass all 7 trials in one go. However, the 8th trial would not be easy to pass. What? The 19th elder was shocked, and his expression became uglier. He didn't expect Qing Xian to reach the 8th level. Qing Xian had stayed in the trial space for so long and passed 8 levels in a row. He should have eaten a lot of pills to replenish his divine power. Did he still have any? At this moment, 19th elder was feeling a little uncertain. Are you very surprised, 19th elder? They're almost at the 8th level, and Feng Da is on the 9th. Qing Xian pointed at Feng Da and the others with a puzzled look. Of course we're surprised. Most of our elders have only passed the 4th level. The second elder, who is the most powerful among us, has only passed the 3rd level so far. The 19th elder was so depressed that he almost vomited blood. This was really infuriating. The speed at which Qing Xian and the others had cleared the stage was almost twice as fast as them. This result had greatly hurt their self-esteem. So that's how it is. However, you don't have to worry too much. After all, your strength is there for all to see. It's only a matter of time before he passes all 10. Qing Xian consoled her with a face full of sympathy. At this moment, he was starting to suspect that Leng Ruoxue was intentionally pranking these elders. However, Leng Ruoxue wouldn't be that bored, would she? But we don't have much time. The 19th elder said pitifully with a bitter face. Hee hee. 19th elder, you said it yourself this time. You don't have much time left. Feng Da interjected with an evil smile after hearing the 19th elder's words. I'm talking to young Master Cheng, it's none of your business. Don't interrupt. The 19th elder said in an unpleasant tone. It's fine if you don't want to say it, but don't beg us to say it in the future. Feng Da said with a smile. Do you think he'll beg you to speak? Stop daydreaming. 19th elder had a disdainful look on his face, as if Fengde had just said a big joke. Chapter 1661, I don't wish to speak to you, too, brothers, remember this. 19th elder won't beg us to speak again. Fengde said to Lin Yuan and the others with a smile. Don't worry. Captain, we will remember this. Lin Yuan and the others were very cooperative, while Ling Qingtian and the others stood by the side and watched coldly. Seeing that Fengde and the others had shut their mouths, the 19th elder smiled and said to Qing Xian, Young Master Cheng. We want to discuss something with you. Hee hee. If there's anything you need, just tell me. As long as it's within my capabilities, I'll do my best. Qing Xian said very happily, but he couldn't help but mutter in his heart, it seems that they have a favor to ask of him. He just didn't know what it was. Young Master Cheng. Didn't you buy a lot of pills from Ling Ruoxue? We're willing to buy some of the pills from you at the original price. You know that we're short on time, if we can't pass the 10 trials in half a year, we'll be punished, so please give us some of them. We don't want much, just half of them will do. The 19th elder pretended to be pitiful. He had carefully thought about this number, and he felt that it was within Qing Xian's acceptable range. After all, if he wanted too much, Qing Xian would definitely not agree. 19th elder. Although I've bought a lot of pills from this great aunt, the reason why I was able to pass the 7 stages was all because of those pills. Now I don't have many pills in my hand, and I still have 2 bottles each for the last 3 stages. So, I'm really sorry, I'm afraid I can't help you. Qing Xian said, embarrassed. You've actually eaten so many pills. 19th elder had a look of disbelief on his face. He had prepared for the worst, but he didn't expect Qing Xian to only have 2 bottles left. Even if Qing Xian sold them to them, there wouldn't be enough for them to split. Moreover, Qing Xian still needed to use it for himself. Sigh. What was this good? Yup. Qing Xian looked apologetic. Then, he pointed at Fengde and the others and said, although I don't have many pills left, they should have quite a few. In fact, Qing Xian did not have as few elixirs as he had said. However, he could not sell them to the 19th elder and the others because he was afraid that he would offend Fengde and the others if he did so. This was something he did not want to see. In fact, compared to the 19th elder and the others, he wanted to be on good terms with Fengde and the others more. Do you have any extra pills? After hearing Qing Xian's words, the 19th elder asked Fengde and the others. However, Fengde and the others ignored him. Seeing this, 19th elder was furious. Damn it. I'm asking you guys a question. The 19th elder roared. But still, no one paid him any attention. You guys are going against me on purpose, aren't you? 19th elder's eyes widened in anger as he questioned. At this time, Fengde slowly took out a pen and paper from his storage ring, and with a brush. Schwa. Whoosh. He wrote a few words on it and showed it to the 19th elder. On the paper was written, "You won't beg us to talk." When 19th elder saw this, he was so angry that he almost fainted. So these hateful guys were waiting for him here. He glared at Fengde fiercely, but Fengde was not moved at all. He even smiled at 19th elder in a friendly manner. In 19th elder's eyes, this was a blatant provocation. I didn't speak to you just now, but now I'm asking you to speak. The 19th elder suppressed the anger in his heart and tried to calm himself down. However, after Fengde heard what he said, he still didn't say a word and wrote another line on the paper, "You want us to talk, so we should talk." That would be so embarrassing. Thanks. When 19th elder saw these words, he was so angry that he almost vomited blood. However, he could tell that these people were really doing this on purpose. Qing Xian, who was standing on the side, watched the exchange between Fengde and the 19th elder without a change in his expression. He was already laughing in his heart. Ha ha ha. Ling Ruoxue's subordinates were really good at angering people. However, this could only be considered 19th elder's bad luck. He had actually offended them. It seemed like his idea of befriending Feng De and the others was not just a wise one. He was full of admiration for himself. At this moment, the 19th elder, who had calmed down for a moment, took a few deep breaths and tried his best to suppress the anger in his heart. He tried his best to speak in a friendly manner. What do you want? The 19th elder was at his wit's end. Moreover, on account of the pills in their hands, he would not argue with them, even though he felt very aggrieved. We don't want anything. Feng De wrote on the paper. Damn it. You guys better talk. The 19th elder couldn't help but shout. After shouting, he began to regret his impulsiveness. What if Feng De and the others didn't want to sell them the pills because of this? Humph. You're not my lady, you can't order us around. Feng De didn't give him any face and replied on the paper. I'm begging you, can you please speak? 19th elder was depressed, but he couldn't do anything to Feng De, who was like a pain in the ass. Are we daydreaming? Feng De turned to ask Lin Yuan and the others. It should be. Lin Yuan and the rest nodded in agreement. Oh. Then just ignore it. Feng De said with a smile. You, 19th elder pointed at Feng De and the others, his body trembling. Seeing that the incompetent 19th elder had suffered a loss in silence in front of Feng De and the others, the second elder couldn't stand it anymore. He walked over and said straightforwardly, do you have any extra pills? If you do, please sell us some. The second elder's attitude was very good, and he looked at Feng De and the others with a hint of anticipation. However, Feng De and the others didn't talk to him, and directly wrote on the paper, we have all the pills, but we don't want to sell them to you. Ah. Seeing this line of words, the second elder was extremely depressed. He couldn't help but glare at the 19th elder. It was all this old thing's fault. Now, he was bearing a grudge. Feng De. I'm also Len Ruox's bodyguard now. You guys can't bear to see me trapped here forever, right? We only have 3 months left, you can't just leave us in the lurch. The second elder played the emotional card. Don't try to get close, we're not close. Feng De scribbled on the paper. These words made the second elder even more depressed. Sob. It seemed that they were really angered by the 19th elder. That damn troublemaker, he didn't pay attention to his words usually, and now he had angered him at a critical moment. What should they do? The more he thought about it, the more worried he became. His brows were even furrowed together. After thinking for a long time, the second elder said, Feng De. Don't be like this. Even if you don't give me face, you should at least give face to our family head, right? He was Len Ruox's godfather. If we're all trapped here, it'll be a huge loss for the Ning family. Chapter 1662, I don't wish to speak to you. 3. Master Ning will understand. Feng De replied indifferently on the paper. What do you want us to do before you speak? The second elder sighed and said helplessly. I don't want to talk to you. Feng De wrote. Don't be like this. You guys really can't just leave him in the lurch. The second elder was so anxious that he almost cried. He was the most powerful among them and the one who had passed the least number of trials. Therefore, he was the most afraid and the most anxious one. However, the 19th elder had offended Feng De and the others, and now they were all resenting him. This was absolutely an undeserved disaster for him. However, the second elder's words had no effect on Feng De and the others. They even turned their heads impatiently. When the second elder saw this, he could only put down his old face and walk to Feng De's side. He pulled on Feng De's sleeve and looked at Feng De with tears in his eyes. He did not speak for a long time. The second elder's move made Feng De and the others' jaws drop. Fuck. What was the second elder trying to do? If he wanted to act pitiful, then so be it. But what was this? Was he begging them or trying to scare them? It was just that they had a strong mental capacity. Otherwise, who would be responsible if they were frightened? However, the other elders of the Ning family were truly frightened. Their faces were full of fear, looking at the second elder as if they had seen a ghost. No one had thought that the always proud second elder would go to such an extent for a few pills. Although the second elder had done this for them, it was still too scary. Feng De. You talk to me. After a long while, the second elder, who was tugging on Feng De's sleeve, pleaded with a slightly choked voice. All right. I'm scared of you. Feng De said as he wiped the cold sweat off his forehead. Then can you sell us some pills? The second elder struck while the iron was hot. Fuck. He had sacrificed his image in exchange for this opportunity. Therefore, he had to catch it. It's not that I can't sell you pills, but the price can't be 10 top-grade crystals. Feng De thought for a while and said. In fact, he was extremely depressed in his heart. They had persisted for so long and ignored these Ning family elders, but they actually surrendered under the second elder's disregard for their image. However, it seemed to be worth it to see the second elder's shameless side. Hee hee. I knew you're the best. The second elder praised him happily. Second elder. Watch your tone, if you continue like this, I'm going to go back on my word. Feng De's hair stood on end as he shivered. All right then. The second elder knew when to stop. Then, he said in a serious tone, how much are you planning to sell the pills you have? 50 top-grade crystals for a bottle. Feng De asked for an exorbitant price without holding back. What? You're robbing me. Before the second elder could express his opinion, the 19th elder immediately stomped his feet when he heard the price. You don't have to buy it if you think it's expensive. I don't have to sell it to you. Feng De rolled his eyes at the 19th elder. 19th elder. You shut up. At this time, the second elder was a little anxious as he reprimanded him. He was very afraid that the 19th elder would ruin their plans. What if Feng De and the others were angry and refused to sell it to them? What should they do? After being lectured, 19th elder shut his mouth unwillingly. However, his eyes were filled with dissatisfaction at the price. However, he was being ignored by everyone. That 50 top-grade crystals is a bit expensive, can you make it cheaper? After reprimanding the 19th elder, the second elder turned to discuss with Feng De. One must know that Len Ruoxu's small bottle only had 10 small and exquisite pills. Based on the quality of those pills, it was not a loss to sell them for 10 pieces of top-grade crystals. However, the current price was 4 times the original price. With this, they felt a little unbalanced in their hearts. This price is very fair, no room for discussion. Feng De said with a nonchalant expression. Previously, Len Ruoxu sold it to us for 10 top-grade crystals per bottle. Now, you're actually selling it for 4 times the price? This is a little too much. The seventh elder said very implicitly. His words also represented the inner thoughts of all the elders present. That was, this price was too high. You also said that it was before. When Miss wanted to sell it to you, you only bought a little. Now that it's not enough, you want to buy it from me. I'm willing to sell it to you, but don't forget where this place is. Other than us, is there anyone else who can sell you a pill? Feng De warned him very seriously and put on a disapproving attitude. Although Feng De's words were unpleasant to the ears of the elders, it was the truth. Before they came in, they had the opportunity to buy more pills. However, because they could not bear to part with it and they were a little resentful, they only bought a little symbolically. Now, they really regretted it. 50 top-grade crystals, no bargaining, do you want it? Feng De couldn't help but ask when he saw that they didn't give any suggestions for a long time. Thanks, of course we want it, but we don't have that much money with us. The seventh elder spoke the thoughts of the other elders. This was also one of the reasons why they found it expensive. It doesn't matter. You can write me an IOU, and if you can't pay it back, it'll go to your family's head to pay the debt. With your Ning family's reputation, I believe you won't renege on the debt. Feng De chuckled. Fuck. Another IOU. Did these people have money in their eyes? Leng Ruoshua had said before that if they had no money, they could write an IOU. Now that these words came out of Feng Die's mouth, they were extremely depressed. Could it be that they were destined to live their days in debt? This fact almost made them collapse. Actually, you don't have to be embarrassed. Who in this world doesn't have a time when they're short of money? Owing a debt wasn't something to lose face about, haven't you heard of the saying? The one in debt was the master. These days, the most terrifying thing is to be in debt. If you weren't a member of the Ning family, we wouldn't have allowed you to write an IOU. So, you don't have to worry. As long as you pay off the money, we won't let anyone know about this, but if someone intends to renege on the debt, then don't blame us for being ruthless. Well, definitely make the matter of someone reneging on the debt public. At that time, the debtor won't only lose his own face, but also the Ning family's face. Feng De warned in a half-joking manner. His words made all the elders look at each other. Although they didn't show it on their faces, they secretly communicated with each other through voice transmission. After a while, the elders finally came to an agreement. Let's write an IOU. The second elder sighed and said with a straight face. No problem. Feng De nodded and gave Lin Yuan and the rest a look. Lin Yuan and the rest understood and took out the prepared paper and pen from their storage rings, placing them in front of the second elder and the rest. Seeing that Feng De and the others seemed to be prepared, the elders were secretly upset. However, they couldn't do anything to the other party. It was Jiang Taigong who hooked the fish, and those who were willing to take the bait. No matter how unwilling they were in their hearts, one was willing to be hit and the other was willing to suffer. Write down the amount and the name of the things you want to buy. 50 top-grade crystals per bottle. Don't make a mistake in your calculation. It's limited to 100 bottles. Feng De reminded the second elder before they started writing. When the elders heard Feng Die's words, they were so angry that their eyes widened. Miscalculate? They weren't that stupid, okay? At the thought of this, all the elders quickly wrote down the amount, name, and amount that Feng De had requested. Feng De and the others saw that they had finished writing, and after checking them one by one, they took out the pills from their storage rings and handed them over. After the elders received it, they opened the bottle cap in unison to check it. Immediately, everyone's face revealed a happy expression. Although the price of these medicinal pills was a little expensive, with the help of these medicinal pills, they were more confident in clearing the round. Especially the impatient second elder. After eating a divine power replenishing pill, he couldn't wait to return to the trial space. Seeing this, the other elders also followed suit and continued to break through. After they all left, Qing Xian smiled and said to Feng De and the others, "You guys have earned a lot of money this time. Shouldn't you treat me to a meal?" Young Master Cheng. You're satisfied with just one meal? Feng De raised his eyebrows and asked with a smile. I'm not asking for much. A meal is enough. Qing Xian said as he secretly wiped the cold sweat off his forehead. I didn't expect your request to be so simple. I was going to give you a big gift. Since you only want to have a meal, then I'll save it. Feng De said with a smirk. What gift are you giving me? Qing Xian's face was filled with curiosity. You don't want it anyway, so it's better if you don't know. Feng De kept him in suspense mysteriously. Don't be like this. We're friends. Qing Xian's face was bitter as he said with hidden bitterness. Hee. Even blood brothers should settle accounts clearly. Feng De said stubbornly. Woo. Qing Xian was depressed. His starry eyes were fixed on Feng De, but Feng De didn't fall for it. Let's continue our training. Well, continue later. Feng De ignored Qing Xian's bitter expression and turned to the others. Lin Yuan and the rest nodded in cooperation. Then, they sat cross-legged and began to cultivate. Chapter 1663, Miss is here too. 1. At this time, the second elder and the others had already begun to break through the levels. With the elixirs in their hands, they were more confident in breaking through the levels. After a month, all the elders, including the second elder, had passed the 8th level. They had also passed the 9th level several times, but they always returned without success and were stuck at the 9th level. Every level in the trial space was formed by strong gales and lightning. In the first level, only one lightning bolt would be shot out from the lightning ball in the center of the gales, but from the second level onwards, the number of lightning bolts would increase exponentially with each level passed. Not only that, the speed of the lightning attacks would also increase, so the difficulty would also increase. The second elder and the others had consumed countless medicinal pills to pass the 8th level in a month. However, they could not pass the 9th level no matter what. This made them feel depressed. If the 9th level was already so difficult to pass, they did not even dare to imagine how difficult the 10th level would be. However, it was fortunate that they still had 2 months' time, so they still had confidence. In the dusky space, the second elder and the others were sitting cross-legged on the ground. The 19th elder was pacing back and forth, mumbling to himself as he walked. The noise made the second elder open his eyes unwillingly. "Are you done? Don't disturb us, go to the side." The second elder rolled his eyes at the 19th elder and said in an unpleasant tone. "Second elder, I'm just feeling frustrated." 19th elder felt extremely wronged. He was also thinking of a way. At this moment, Feng De and the others had gone to challenge the 9th level. They were also stuck there and had spent a month without any progress. When he thought of himself, he felt deeply touched. At this time, he seemed to have forgotten the grudges with Feng De and the others. He just wanted to think of a way to leave this damn place as soon as possible. Fortunately, they did not lose their memories this time. Otherwise, they would have lost their memories as they did during the devil training. They would be depressed to death. "Have you thought of any good ideas?" The second elder lifted his eyelids and said indifferently. "Not yet." 19th elder lowered his head in embarrassment. "Then why don't you just stay at the side? You're making us dizzy." The second elder roared in anger. "Oh. Yes," 19th elder answered fearfully, then went to find a place to sit. At this moment, Ling Qingtian, Ling Ruhan, Feng De, and Lin Yuan walked out of the trial space with joy on their faces. Seeing their expressions, the elders were bewildered. Could they have passed the 9th level? "Qingtian, have you guys passed the 9th level?" The second elder asked in a friendly manner. He had a good relationship with Ling Qingtian and the others. However, because of his ancestor, he did not dare to act like an elder in front of them. Although he was much older than them, in terms of seniority, even their ancestor was not as high as them, let alone him. Fortunately, they were all in their own right. We're pretty lucky to have passed the 9th level. However, the 10th level won't be easy. After Len Qingshan's joy faded, he felt a slight headache. "You guys tried the last stage?" The second elder could not help but ask. "I went to try. I was completely killed in seconds." Ling Qingtian said with lingering fear. "What's the last test like?" At this time, the 7th elder couldn't help but interrupt. "Thanks, it's full of lightning. The smallest one is as thick as a bucket. We were instantly killed when we went in. I really don't know how to pass this last test." Ling Qingtian said helplessly. A trial space filled with lightning? All the elders were speechless. What kind of game was this? Could it be that he wanted to keep them here forever? One had to know that they only had 2 months left. "Yup. Elders, we're going to start cultivating. Good luck." After Ling Qingtian finished speaking, he brought Ling Ruhan, Feng De, and Lin Yuan back to their original seats to cultivate. While they were cultivating, Qing Xian and the others came out of the trial space one after another. The elders also entered the trial space to pass the trials day and night without stopping. Among them, the first to pass the 9th trial was the second elder, who was the strongest. However, the last trial made the second elder frown. There was only a month left before their deadline. At this time, most of the elders had also passed the 9th level, but the last level stumped everyone. Second elder. Our time limit is almost up. If we can't get through this last obstacle, who knows what kind of punishment is waiting for us. What should we do? The 7th elder said gloomily. They were all frowning in the gray safe space. However, Fengde and the others were much more relaxed in comparison. After all, they had 10 years. And now, it had not even been a year. Sob. They were so regretful. If they had known this would happen, they would have chosen the option with the longest lifespan. Unfortunately, there was no medicine for regret in this world. Leng Ruoxue had not informed them of the situation here in advance, causing them to be too smart for their own good and make the wrong decision. Now that they thought about it, could they blame her? It was because they were afraid that she would have bad intentions, so they wanted to leave this place as soon as possible. You're asking me, but who should I ask? I can't even stay in this last trial space for long, let alone break through it. The second elder said in a bad mood. At this moment, he was extremely depressed. He had gone to the last stage several times, but the longest time he stayed was only 10 minutes before he was teleported out. He really didn't know which of them would be able to pass the last test. At the thought of this, he shifted his gaze to Leng Qingtian and the others. Qingtian, do you have any good ideas? The second elder asked expectantly. Second elder. We can't do anything about it. The last level is an instant kill for us. Leng Qingtian said helplessly. They had entered the training space for the last stage countless times. Each time, they had to stand and lie down. They couldn't even last a minute. Why don't we discuss this together? The second elder said after some thought. All right. Leng Qingtian nodded in agreement. There might be a good solution if they put their heads together. Just like that, the two parties sat down and began to discuss. As time went by, they came up with countless solutions and tried them out personally, but they all ended in failure. At this moment, Leng Ruoxue and the demon were also in the middle of the final stage. Not long after Fengde, the second elder, and the rest entered, Leng Ruoxue and the demon entered the second-tier domain of the illusionary sky. However, they went to another space in the illusionary sky. As the master of the fantasy sky, Leng Ruoxue had this special privilege. Hence, after they entered, the space manager had prepared a separate safe space for them. With the support of powerful pills, Leng Ruoxue and the demon managed to clear the first 9 levels in the shortest time possible. Right now, they were struggling in the last level. Chapter 1664, Miss is here too. Although the two of them were in 2 separate training spaces, it was as if their hearts were connected and they knew everything about each other. This fact made the two of them extremely surprised. In the ultimate trial space, Leng Ruoxue was surrounded by lightning. Her body was already riddled with wounds, but she refused to give up and enjoyed the baptism of the lightning. Thousands of dark purple lightning bolts struck her body. Finally, the rule of the trial space was that from the starting point of the space, walking to the other side of the space was considered a success. In other words, the person who wanted to break through the space had to withstand the attack of the lightning. This required the person to have an extremely strong defense, otherwise, he would only be killed by the lightning in seconds. At this moment, Leng Ruoxue had already relied on her insane defensive equipment and the green vessel's defense to cover 1/3 of the distance with great difficulty. However, if she could not continue, then all this would have been for nothing. This was because this was not the first time she had covered this distance. She had passed the last level dozens of times and was always sent out with her last breath. This time, she didn't know if the result would be better. In the ultimate space, other than the frenzied lightning, there was also a huge pressure. This pressure was also one of the reasons why it was so difficult for Leng Ruoxue to walk. However, just as Leng Ruoxue was carefully walking around the trial space, a white lightning bolt that was only as thick as a pinky finger suddenly shot out from the lightning cloud and headed straight for her. In an instant, the small white lightning hit her body at a speed that she could not catch up with. she did not even have time to take a healing pill before she was directly transported out. Seeing this, she knew that she had failed this time. Len Ruoxue, who had been teleported out, was immediately pulled into the demon's arms the moment she reached the safe space. Looking at Len Ruoxue, who was covered in wounds and blood, the evildoer's heart ached. Shwaa. How did you get so badly injured this time? The demon asked unhappily. In his heart, he was cursing the space manager. That damn guy, he actually dared to be so cruel to his own master. Humph. It would be best if he didn't have the chance to see the space spirit, otherwise, he would definitely beat him up. Fortunately, the space manager couldn't hear his inner thoughts, otherwise, he would definitely cry out that he was wronged, because although he was the manager of this second-layer domain, but the difficulty of the trial space was not controlled by him. The only thing he could do was to transfer the people who were still breathing out, and this was only for fear that they would die inside. However, the space manager in the control room still felt a hint of danger and couldn't help but sneeze. He thought to himself, who is scolding me? Looking at the scene on the screen, the space manager's face was full of fear. Oh. Master is so pitiful. He was actually injured so badly. What should he do? Although it was the space manager, it could not help its master to pass the trial. Therefore, it could only watch helplessly. When it saw its master's scarred face, it was a little frightened. However, it was powerless. Unless the master gave up on the challenge and came out on his own. However, only Len Ruoxue, as the host, had the right to do so. The others could only leave this place after clearing all the levels. In the safe space. Len Ruoxue felt the evildoer's deep concern, and her heart felt warm. I'm fine. Don't worry. Len Ruoxue, who was in the arms of the evildoer, said weakly. You're still fine. You're already so badly injured. The demon frowned and said with a dark face. Thanks, just take a pill. Len Ruoxue smiled to comfort her. However, she accidentally pulled on the wounds on her body and it hurt so much that she could not help but frown. It hurts, right? Seeing the slight change in Len Ruoxue's expression, the demon asked worriedly. After he finished speaking, he quickly took out a healing pill and stuffed it into Len Ruoxue's mouth. After taking the pill, Len Ruoxue immediately wanted to challenge the next round after her injuries had healed. However, she was held back by the demon. You stay here obediently. You're not allowed to attempt the last stage. The demon said in a domineering manner. How can we get out if we don't charge in? Don't tell me you want to be trapped here. Len Ruoxue chuckled. There's nothing bad about staying here. At least there aren't so many third wheels coming to snatch you away from me. The demon didn't fall for the trick. Instead, he was very excited. He felt that Shuai's suggestion was very good. Ah. But we can't stay here forever. Len Ruoxue said helplessly. At the same time, she was secretly thinking to herself that it was a good thing that she did not tell the demon that she could leave at any time. Otherwise, the demon might ask her to leave now. But there's no rush. If we can't get out, the others can't either. What are you afraid of? The demon said disapprovingly. He was not in a hurry anyway. Even though Len Ruoxue knew that the demon's words made sense, she couldn't praise him. Otherwise, she believed that this fellow would definitely be so proud that he would raise his tail. Shwaa. Take a good rest before you go to the last stage. Otherwise, I won't let you go. At most, well, just stay inside forever. Seeing that Shwaa didn't say anything, the demon tried to persuade her. All right then. I'll listen to you. Len Ruoxue nodded her head and laid in the arms of the evildoer with a peace of mind. The demon hugged Len Ruoxue tightly, his heart was so beautiful that it was about to float. At this time, in the dusky space, the second elder and the others were still trying to break through the last stage. However, the space manager could not stand it anymore and had to show up to give them some guidance. You idiots. I really don't know how you guys passed the first few stages. The space manager's voice rang in everyone's ears, and suddenly, everyone's foreheads were filled with black lines. Were they being scolded? What right did this damn space manager have to scold them? Everyone couldn't figure it out. If they couldn't pass the last level, they would still be scolded. No one could stand such treatment. What right do you have to scold us? The furious 19th elder roared back. Because you're too stupid. This last stage is different from the previous stages. The defense of this last stage is very important. Your defense is somewhat mediocre, so it's natural that you'll find it difficult to move an inch in this last stage. The space manager also roared, "Humph. Who didn't know how to compete in volume? As the manager of this space, would he be afraid of them? Ah. Then what should we do?" The 19th elder said, a little dumbfounded. In the first few levels, as long as they dodged the lightning attacks and waited for the attacks to disappear, they would be considered to have passed. However, not only did the lightning in the last level not disappear, but it was gathering more and more. They were killed in a few seconds. How were they supposed to clear the stage? At this moment, there was less than a month left until the deadline for them to complete the 10th level. When he thought of this fact, he felt as if his heart had been stabbed by a knife. Chapter 1665, Miss is here too, 3, of course it's to strengthen your defense. By the way, you have to walk from the starting point to the end to pass the last round. Just think about how long you'll be in there. Ha ha ha. After the space manager finished speaking, he left behind an extremely wild laugh and disappeared again. After the second elder and the others heard the words of the space manager, they were even more depressed. Fuck. How did this happen? Wasn't he playing them to death? One had to know that their time limit was almost up, and if they still couldn't pass the last level, they didn't dare to imagine the consequences. Seeing their worry, Ling Qingtian couldn't help but comfort them. Second elder. Don't worry too much, we'll make it through the last stage, don't worry. Fuck. Of course you're not in a hurry. You still have 9 years to waste here. We're not in a hurry. Ling Qingshan's words infuriated 19th elder even more. He was about to go crazy from the pressure. As soon as he finished speaking, Feng De and the others immediately glared at him. Even the second elder and the others looked at him disapprovingly. After all, he was comforting them out of good intentions. However, this 19th elder had actually opened his mouth and scolded them. This was a little too much. Damn it. Who are you scolding? Feng De shouted with his eyes wide open. Those who dared to scold their people really didn't want to live. If the young miss knew about this, they would definitely suffer. 19th elder's face was red and he was at a loss for words. In fact, he regretted it after shouting, but he couldn't take back the words he had said. Qingtian. 19th elder didn't do it on purpose, he's just under too much pressure. Please don't lower yourself to his level. The second elder quickly tried to smooth things over, but in his heart, he was cursing the 19th elder, who only knew how to ruin things. Yup. I'm sorry. I was just too anxious, so I didn't scold anyone. The 19th elder received the second elder's gaze and quickly tried to salvage the situation. However, Irin and Feng De didn't give him a good look. I understand. However, at a time like this, it's all the more important to remain calm. Being anxious won't solve the problem. Ling Qingtian said in an understanding manner. In fact, he was quite depressed. He just wanted to comfort them, but who knew that 19th elder would take it as sarcastic remarks. Now it seemed that he was being meddlesome. They were the elders of the Ning family, why would he need to worry about them? The second elder and the others nodded. They all understood this logic. However, if it really fell on them, they would probably not be able to calm down. I think your mental endurance is still too weak, and you lack training. Feng De said. However, no one dared to respond to him. Seeing that the elders had stopped talking, Feng De was too lazy to pay attention to them. He sat down and closed his eyes to cultivate. Seeing this, the others followed suit. For a time, the atmosphere of Fengde and the others' cultivation was high. Compared to them, the second elder and the others' side was lifeless and depressed. Seeing that the deadline was getting closer and closer, the hearts of the second elder and the others also became heavier. As the days passed, they still couldn't think of a way to break through the barrier. However, this way, they were desperate. Since they couldn't succeed, they had to prepare for punishment. Besides, this was a good lesson for them. They would learn from their mistakes and pay more attention in the future. After thinking this way, the elders all calmed down. Thanks, in fact, they had no choice but to open it. The time was getting closer and closer, but they were at their wits' end, so they could only accept their fate. Half a year had just passed when the space manager's voice rang in everyone's ears again. The half-year time limit is up. You've all failed. Hearing this voice, all the elders had bitter faces and drooped their heads listlessly. They knew that they would soon know what the punishment was. Just as they had expected, the next second, the space manager said in a happy mood, "In view of your failure, the difficulty of the trials will be doubled. Furthermore, you will have to repass the first 9 trials. Until you pass the 10th level. By the way, what's the deal with that 19th elder? I have high hopes for you. I hope you can stay here and accompany me forever. Otherwise, it'll be too lonely here. Although I've taken a fancy to you, I won't go easy on you." The space manager would not pay for it, because it really could not be merciful. Everything here had been set up in the beginning. Only its master, Len Ruoxue, had the authority to modify it. Its greatest authority was to transport the participants out of the trial space when they were on their last breath. The space manager's words made the 19th elder's face turn black with anger, and he almost fainted. The other elders' faces were not very good either, because their failure had caused all their previous efforts to go to waste. How could they accept this? However, it was a good thing that they had not been chosen by the space manager. Otherwise, they would have been half dead from anger like the 19th elder. 19th elder. Congratulations. I didn't expect you to have the fortune to be able to stay here forever. After hearing what the space manager said, Fengde held back his laughter and said, "Ha! This was karma." Now that the 19th elder was so smug, the space manager had his eyes on him, right? Who wants to stay here all the time? The 19th elder roared in anger. He was so depressed that he almost vomited blood. However, he was even angrier at Fengde's act of adding insult to injury. He was clearly waiting to see them make a fool of themselves. This was really too much. I know you all want to go out, but you can't. My family's young miss often says, since you're here, you should take things as they come. So, you should all perform well here. You'll be released from prison one day. Fengde said with a smile. The 19th elder was rendered speechless by Fengde's words, while the second elder said gloomily, "Well, work hard. I'm going to break through the barrier." After saying that, the second elder turned around and entered the door of the trial space. "I'm going too." The 7th elder looked at the elders present and sighed. After working hard for more than half a year, they were back to square one. They had to start all over again. They had to hurry. After the 7th elder, the other elders also walked in with bitter faces. After a short while, other than Fengde and the others, only the 19th elder, who was so angry that his face was livid, did not move. 19th elder, why aren't you going to challenge the trial? Do you really want to stay here and accompany that space manager? You don't even know if that guy is a human or a beast. How dangerous is that? Fengde reminded him with a smile. What does it have to do with you? 19th elder said unhappily. After he finished speaking, he also turned around and walked into the door of the trial space in a huff. Chapter 1666, One-on-One Fight, 1. After the elders left, Qing Xian looked at Fengde with admiration and said with a fiery gaze, "Fengde, you're really amazing." With just a few words, he had angered the 19th elder half to death. "I'm impressed. Don't worship me. I'm just a legend. Feng De said arrogantly. In fact, he was angry with the 19th elder because he wanted to avenge Grandpa Leng. Grandpa Leng might not stoop to the level of 19th elder, but they couldn't just let it go. A legend. That's even more admirable. Cheng Xian said exaggeratedly. Hee hee. Young Master Cheng. Learn. Words are a sharp weapon that can kill people. Feng De said seriously. However, just as he finished speaking, Ling Qingtian hit him on the head. You little brat. I'll give you a good look, why aren't you quickly challenging the levels? Ling Qingtian laughed as he scolded. Grandpa Leng. I can't make it now. Moreover, every stage here is based on our strength. If we keep cultivating here, I'm afraid the difficulty will be even greater. Feng De said with a troubled expression. They were in conflict now. Feng De's words made everyone think deeply. However, a voice rang out and woke them up. Idiot. I've said it before, the last stage is different from the previous 9 stages. The last stage is mainly about defense. Of course, strength is also very important. After all, the higher the strength, the stronger the defense. The space manager said with some disappointment. Ah. Isn't the last test supposed to be more difficult the more powerful you are? Feng De asked in a daze. The others were also confused. Could it be that they had fallen into a misunderstanding? Not exactly, understand. With high strength, the difficulty will naturally be appropriately increased. However, if your strength is too low, it will definitely not be easy to pass. In any case, your final deadline is 10 years, so take your time to cultivate. After the space manager finished speaking, he laughed out loud. By the way, my master, your young lady is also in the middle of the last stage. Moreover, she has already passed more than half of the test. The space manager added, and then disappeared again. Young lady is here too. Feng De and the others were surprised. No one had expected that the young lady would also come to join in the fun. Moreover, she was seriously challenging the levels. In comparison, they felt inferior. After hearing this news, Feng De and the others were greatly encouraged, and they became even more motivated to cultivate. When the second elder and the others came out of the trial space again, they were greatly surprised to see their changes. Did something happen when they went to challenge the trial? This was because Feng De and the others' fighting spirit had become even higher, which made them puzzled. Seeing the second elder and the others' surprised gazes, Feng De said in an understanding manner, we have to work hard in our cultivation and try to pass the last stage as soon as possible. You're working hard on your cultivation. Could it be that you're still hoping to advance to Reverend God level here? The 19th elder scoffed at Feng De's words and was extremely disdainful. Thanks, 19th elder. You're really not the average kind of annoying person. Did I say that I wanted to advance to Reverend God level here? You're not even a Reverend God yet. If I were to become a Reverend God here, wouldn't you be so ashamed that you'd buy a piece of tofu and commit suicide? In fact, he quite liked to bicker with the 19th elder. Otherwise, he would be depressed to death in this boring place. You really have no upbringing. Don't you know how to respect the elderly? The 19th elder was so angry that he was speechless. It took him a long time to force out this sentence. 19th elder. Where did you get the idea that I'm uneducated? Moreover, respecting the elderly also depended on the person. In front of my family's young miss, you're still a junior. When have you ever respected her? Hee hee. We naturally don't need to treat people who don't respect our family's young miss as humans. Feng De said venomously. His words angered 19th elder so much that he blew his beard and glared at him. However, he had nothing to say because what Feng De said was the truth. He did not take Leng Ruoxue too seriously. That's right. Anyone who disrespects my family's young miss is our enemy. Lin Yuan said as he shared a common enemy. When Qing Xian saw Feng De and the others were so united, he could not help but laugh secretly. This 19th elder really had a bad memory. Every time, he was the one who jumped out to find fault first, and then he was humiliated by others until he had no place to hide. If he was the 19th elder, he would definitely want to buy a piece of tofu to commit suicide, as Fengde had said. 19th elder. You should come over and rest. We'll have to continue in a while. The second elder couldn't stand it anymore and couldn't help but say. This 19th elder was really getting more and more unimproving. He couldn't take advantage of Fengde and the others every time he confronted them, but he still liked to provoke them. Sigh. She really didn't know what he was thinking. Wasn't this looking for abuse? When 19th elder heard second elder's words, he glared at Fengde fiercely. Then, he walked resentfully to second elder's side and sat down cross-legged. He really needed a good rest. He was almost exhausted from the previous challenge. Second elder. How many levels have you guys passed? Second elder. Fengde turned to look at the second elder and asked curiously. The second stage. The second elder's face was slightly red as he spoke in embarrassment. No way. You've been in there for so long and you've only made it to the second stage. Feng Hai's face was filled with disbelief. It seemed like the punishment for failing to pass the stage was quite serious. They had to work hard. Otherwise, if they had to start from the beginning, he would be depressed to death. Yup. The second elder said, somewhat speechless. This fact made him quite depressed. Moreover, it wasn't because they wanted to slack off that they only made it to the second stage. It was because every stage was too abnormal. The difficulty of the second stage was now nearly 5 times higher than the previous one. Moreover, this was only the beginning. If this continued, he really couldn't imagine how long they would have to pass the next stage. Ah. The second elder. All the best, you guys. Fengde said with a look of sympathy. AI. He had no choice but to do his best. I can't stay here forever. The second elder kept sighing gloomily. His mood could be said to be extremely low right now, but at the same time, the second domain of the illusory sky had also aroused his fighting spirit. Good luck, but with the exception of the 19th elder. Fengde said in an infuriating manner. Damn it. You, Fengde's words made 19th elder want to jump up and down again. However, he had just shouted 2 words when he was stopped by second elder. 19th elder. You better rest well. Shut up. The second elder shouted angrily. The 19th elder was so scared that he became as obedient as a little rabbit. Seeing that someone was taking care of the 19th elder, Fengde secretly laughed in his heart. He was doing this on purpose. He wanted to anger the 19th elder. Who asked him to be so annoying? Second elder. Well, continue cultivating. After Fengde finished speaking, he closed his eyes and continued to regulate his breathing. Chapter 1667, One-on-One Fight, 2. Seeing him like this, 19th elder couldn't help but mutter, no matter how hard you train, you won't be able to pass the last stage. Although his voice was soft, second elder and the others beside him could still hear him clearly. Second elder glared at 19th elder unhappily, and 19th elder obediently shut his mouth. However, Fengde, who was resting with his eyes closed, opened his eyes and looked at the 19th elder with a faint smile. He said calmly, 19th elder. We don't need you to worry about whether we can pass the last stage, you should worry about yourself. It's hard to say if you can get out. You, 19th elder was so angry at Fengde that he couldn't speak. This fact made him extremely depressed. He had always thought that he was good with words. How did his mouth become stupid when he met Fengde and the others? This was truly too inconceivable. This result made him somewhat unable to accept. What about me? Be prepared to stay here and accompany that space manager. However, well, come in to see you often. Fengde said with a smirk. Hee hee. I like this suggestion. Suddenly, the space manager's voice rang in everyone's ears again. I don't want to stay here. What's wrong? 19th Elder asked reflexively. This is not up to you. The space manager laughed wretchedly, his voice making one's hair stand on end and horrified. I'll definitely pass these 10 stages. The 19th Elder gritted his teeth and said with certainty. His face was livid with anger. I don't have high hopes for you. The space manager laughed evilly, his voice reverberating in the gray space. Seeing this, Fengde and the others couldn't help but laugh in their hearts. It seemed that this space manager had his eyes on the 19th Elder. Poor guy, he was so annoying that even God and man hated him. You detestable fellow. Don't hide your head and show your tail, if you have the guts, come out and fight me one-on-one. Hearing the words of the space manager, the 19th Elder was furious and roared, losing his mind. Instantly, Fengde and the others were speechless as they thought, is the 19th Elder crazy? He actually wanted the space manager to come out and have a one-on-one fight. Let's not talk about whether he could come out or not. To fight with the master in someone else's territory, was this something that a person with a brain would do? The second Elder and the others had the same thought. At this moment, they all turned their heads in unison, their faces red with the words I don't know him. After the space manager heard the 19th Elder's provocation, he laughed happily, interesting. How interesting. Are you sure you want to fight me one-on-one? The territory you're in right now is mine. Do you have the confidence to beat me here? You're definitely not my opponent, but I don't think you have the guts to come out and fight me one-on-one. 19th Elder braced himself and said. In fact, he was a little impulsive when he said he wanted to fight one-on-one, but for the sake of his face, he could only puff himself up at his own cost. Otherwise, what face would he have in front of Fengde and the other despicable guys in the future? Now, he was betting that the space manager would not appear. Oh, really? The 19th Elder. You're too confident. The space manager said with a smile. This is the truth. You wouldn't dare to come out. 19th Elder said stubbornly, but he kept praying in his heart that he would not be able to come out. He couldn't get out. Thanks, TSK. Don't look down on me. I'll come out and fight you one-on-one now. Just wait for me. The space manager couldn't help but say angrily. When 19th Elder heard this, he was shocked and thought to himself, oh no. If this space manager really appeared, what would he do? Do you want to fight him? Wouldn't it be even more embarrassing if he couldn't win? Just as the 19th Elder was feeling depressed and conflicted, a white light flashed in front of everyone's eyes. A small, exquisite, pure white, fluffy little animal appeared in front of everyone. When they saw this little thing that was only the size of an adult's fist, their jaws almost dropped. The little thing in front of them turned out to be a pocket-sized white rabbit. It was fat and fluffy, and its eyes were more beautiful than rubies. It was looking at the 19th Elder with disdain. When they saw this little guy and thought of the voice that often talked to them, Fengde and the others felt an unspeakable disappointment in their hearts. This gap was too big, right? This image was completely different from what they had in mind. When 19th Elder saw the little thing, his eyes widened in disbelief. Fuck. What was this? This tiny little thing that wasn't even enough to fill the gaps between his teeth was that detestable space manager who had called out to him? If he really fought this little thing one-on-one, wouldn't he be laughed at? Right now, 19th Elder's intestines were green with regret. However, seeing that his opponent was so petite, his heart was also greatly relieved. You're the manager of this space? The 19th Elder asked uncertainly. Nonsense. What's there to be suspicious about? The little white rabbit's tone was very aggressive, and everyone could tell that it was telling the truth. Ah. I think we should cancel our 1v1. The 19th Elder hesitated for a moment before speaking. Why did you cancel it? Are you looking down on me? The little white rabbit glared at him and roared. No. You're too young. 19th Elder was at a loss. When the others heard what he said, they laughed in a low voice, making him even redder. Old man. Don't you know that underestimating the enemy is a great taboo in the military? Judging a person by their appearance is a very serious mistake, and a smart person would not make such a mistake. The little white rabbit said with a serious expression. In other words, she was saying that the 19th elder was not a smart person. The 19th elder naturally understood what the white rabbit was implying. However, since things had already come to this, he could only play dumb. I have no choice. If I really fight you one-on-one, people will laugh at me for bullying small animals. 19th elder's face was filled with difficulty. Who would laugh at you? Are they? The white rabbit's ruby-like eyes rolled slyly, and then it turned to Fengde and the others, and said, if you were to fight me one-on-one, would you all laugh at him? As she said this, the white rabbit's face was filled with anticipation, and her fiery red eyes were filled with tears. I won tea. You guys have a one-on-one fight. Fengde and the others quickly said. However, their support made the 19th elder so angry that he was burning with anger. Hee hee. I knew you were all good people. The little white rabbit was very happy. Then, it turned its gaze back to the 19th elder and said with an expectant look, Old man, you were the one who said you wanted to fight me one-on-one. Now that I've come out, you won't go back on your word, right? I'm not going back on my word. It's just that I really can't have a one-on-one fight with you. The 19th elder sighed and said speechlessly. Why did this little thing have its eyes on him? It really made him depressed. Chapter 1668, One-on-One Fight, 3, Give me a reasonable reason. Otherwise, you'll regret it. The white rabbit narrowed its ruby-like eyes, clearly a little angry. At this moment, the 7th elder, who was standing beside the 19th elder, tugged on his sleeve and whispered, 19th elder. You'd better deal with it. It's the manager of this space. If you offend it, I'm afraid it will make things difficult for you, and at that time, the loss will outweigh the gain. The 19th elder didn't understand the logic behind the 7th elder's words. Therefore, he nodded his head slightly and said to the white rabbit, that little thing, I don't mean to look down on you. It's just that you're too young, so I don't have the heart to do it. Otherwise, if I accidentally hit you too hard, you'll lose your little life. Old man. You don't have to worry about me, you should worry about yourself. If you let me beat you into a pulp and lose too badly, you'll be the one to be laughed at. The little white rabbit kindly reminded. Its kind reminder made Fengde and the others very happy. However, the 19th elder's face was very ugly. He shouted with a livid face, I will lose to a little rabbit like you? You must be joking. Hee hee. You'll know how strong I am after we spar. The little white rabbit said slyly. Humph. Let's compete. Who's afraid of who? The 19th elder was furious. Since the words had already come to this point, if he continued to make excuses, wouldn't he be looked down upon? Then come. The little white rabbit laughed. You're so young, I'll let you make the first move. The 19th elder said helplessly. All right. The white rabbit was very generous. Immediately after, a white figure as fast as lightning pounced toward the 19th elder. Fengde and the others consciously made way for them so that they could not display their full strength. At first, the 19th elder did not think much of the light. After all, in his mind, this little rabbit could not possibly have any great abilities. However, when the white light was very close to him, he realized that he had really underestimated the enemy. This was because the little rabbit's strength was the same as his, a divine emperor. This fact made him even more depressed. Fuck. He had never heard of a rabbit being able to advance to the divine emperor realm. Bloodline was extremely important in the beast clan. A weak beast like a rabbit could not possibly have too high of a strength. Usually, they could only be considered as food for humans and other beasts. However, this little rabbit had surprised everyone. They really did not know how it had cultivated to the divine emperor realm. It was too surprising. 19th elder had also made a huge embarrassing mistake because he had underestimated his opponent. In the time it took for him to be lost in thought, the white rabbit's legs had already landed on his face. With a light kick, it left a few deep purple claw marks on his face. After the attack, the white rabbit immediately jumped away and hid in a safe place. The white rabbit was extremely pleased with itself after its first attack. Although it didn't have any real strength, it was good that it was agile. What's more, it was the manager of this space. It could easily get its strength to the same level as the 19th elder. However, now that the old man was mentally prepared, it would not be easy to succeed. The little white rabbit had a very good attitude and knew when to stop. So, after the opponent had finished his attack, it was ready to stop the battle. Hee hee. Thanks. When 19th elder saw the smug look on the white rabbit's face, he was filled with hatred. What a cunning little fox, she had actually deceived everyone. Since this little thing's strength was equal to his, he naturally would not be modest. Winning against that hateful fellow was the absolute truth. Otherwise, if he really lost, he would also be laughed at to death. At this thought, the 19th elder immediately made his move. The light blue divine power he released condensed into the shape of a giant eagle, and it pounced at the white rabbit like a tiger pouncing on its prey. When the white rabbit saw this, it calmly looked at the eagle. In its memory, the eagle seemed to like eating rabbits. However, this rabbit wasn't an ordinary rabbit. It wasn't clear who would eat who. Hee hee. In an instant, the white rabbit also pounced towards the giant eagle. The white and blue shadows intertwined. Everyone was shocked to see this. They couldn't understand why the white rabbit would give up on defense and turn to attack. Although it was said that the best defense was to attack, it depended on the person. This little rabbit wasn't an attack-type beastie. However, at this moment, they had clearly underestimated the uniqueness of the white little rabbit. They had forgotten that this little rabbit wasn't a real beastie, so they couldn't view it with common sense. After a while, the giant eagle disappeared, and the white rabbit burped proudly. That eagle tastes pretty good, give me another one. I haven't had enough yet. Originally, it had planned to stop the battle. However, when the 19th elder's giant eagle with divine power appeared, it felt a call from the bottom of its heart. A voice was constantly urging it to eat the eagle. Hurry up and eat it. Therefore, it rushed forward without a care and ate it. As expected, its appetite was greatly boosted, making it extremely satisfied. You're a rabbit. When 19th elder saw this, he reminded her angrily. What's wrong with rabbits? Was there a rule that a rabbit could not eat an eagle? Don't you know how to pretend to be a pig to eat a tiger? Even a pig can eat a tiger, so why can't I eat an eagle? The little white rabbit said in an unconvinced manner. Other than its master, it wasn't afraid of anyone else. Therefore, it didn't even take the old man in front of it seriously. Do you think I'm right? After saying those words, the white rabbit turned around and asked Fengde and the others. You're right. Fengde said with a look of agreement. This little white rabbit was becoming more and more pleasing to the eye. It was indeed worthy of being his own person refined by the young miss. It was really to his liking no matter how he looked at it. With Fengde's agreement, the white rabbit became more and more proud. Then, it took the initiative to express its goodwill. You guys are so considerate. I've decided to help you guys as much as I can. Thank you. A few drops of cold sweat rolled down Fengde's forehead. He didn't think that this Xiaotu would really be able to help them. Even if he wanted to, he was afraid that the young miss would not agree. You are taking bribes. 19th elder heard their conversation and was furious. Do we? Don't you wrong us. The little white rabbit blinked innocently and said in an aggrieved tone. Humph. You said you would help them. We all heard it. The 19th elder said angrily. I only said that I will help them within my ability. What's wrong with that? I can't. The little white rabbit rolled her eyes. Of course not. If you go easy on them, it would be very unfair to us. The 19th elder said in anger.